The Manor's ballroom is a vision of opulence, glistening chandeliers casting a warm golden light that reflects off the polished marble floor. Intricate patterns of vines and flowers are etched into the surface, while walls adorned with gold leaf and tapestries depict scenes of timeless elegance. High windows draped in heavy velvet curtains reveal small ornate balconies overlooking the estate's darkened grounds. Damian's hand rests lightly on my lower back, anchoring me amidst the swirl of opulent gowns and sharp tuxedos. I am dressed in the most lavish gown, shimmering with each movement, its fabric flowing like molten gold down my body. The entire ensemble makes me feel as though I've stepped out of a fairy tale, destined for a night of magic and mystery. But my mind is elsewhere, consumed by what awaits us after the party ends. A week ago, Ian Cromwell revealed the truth about the Accords and why vampires were forbidden from biting werewolves. At that moment, I had been convinced things would end between Damian and me. To my surprise, and his grandfather's, the facts that drinking my blood could essentially make Damian human didn't deter him at all. "You mean I'll age?" he asked, his tone hopeful yet vulnerable. "Grow old like a regular human and die?" He looked stunned, almost as if this was too good to be true. "I hate being a vampire," he confessed, avoiding his grandfather's hardened gaze. "No offense, Gramps, but I'd love nothing more than to sleep, eat food, and not think about blood all the time." His grandfather raised an unimpressed eyebrow. "Well, you'll still need some blood, or Chloe, to be precise, should she become your bride. But as time goes by, you'll require it less and less, losing your powers until you're eventually mortal, albeit one who needs blood occasionally." I only half listened to their exchange because Damian's words struck something deep within me. I hadn't realized how much vampires struggled with the compulsion to drink blood, or maybe it wasn't universal, but knowing this changed everything. "I'm so sorry," I interrupted, looking at Damian apologetically. "I wouldn't have urged you to drink from me so often if I'd known how difficult it was for you. That was incredibly insensitive of me." Damian scoffed affectionately, turning to his grandfather with a wistful smile. "She's apologizing, even though I can't stop myself from drinking from her. You see why I can't lose her, right?" Ian gave Damian an understanding look. "Chloe's an absolute angel," he declared seriously, "but think carefully about what it would mean for her to become your bride." "It's not that simple," Ian interjected before Damian could respond. He reminded us both of the implications, not just for us personally, but for our respective communities. Vampires and werewolves existed under delicate conditions, bound by centuries-old rules designed to prevent chaos. Yet here we were, challenging those very boundaries. Despite the weight of these revelations, tonight feels surreal. The ballroom buzzes with laughter, clinking glasses, and soft orchestral music. It's beautiful, but every glance at Damian pulls me back to reality. His presence is magnetic, drawing me closer despite the storm brewing inside me. Watching him now, so composed yet brimming with quiet intensity, I wonder how someone so ethereal could ever want someone like me, a werewolf caught between duty and desire. As the evening progresses, couples twirl across the dance floor, their movements fluid and effortless. Damian guides me toward the center, his grip firm yet gentle. We move together seamlessly, as though our bodies were made to fit this rhythm. For a fleeting moment, I allow myself to forget everything else, the secrets, the risks, the looming questions about our future. Here, surrounded by luxury and whispers of eternity, it feels possible to imagine a life where we belong together without fear or consequence. When the song ends, Damian leans in close enough for his breath to tickle my ear. "Do you trust me?" he murmurs, his voice low and steady. My heart skips a beat. Trust has always been complicated between us, tangled up in the web of our identities and obligations. Still, there's no hesitation when I answer, "Yes." His lips curve into a satisfied smile, and he leads me away from the crowd. We step onto one of the balconies, the cool night air brushing against my skin. Below, the estate stretches into darkness, punctuated only by the faint glow of lanterns lining the pathways. It's peaceful here, far removed from the glittering spectacle indoors. "I need you to know something," Damian begins, his expression unreadable. "Whatever happens next, whatever decisions we make, it won't change how I feel about you. You've already changed me, Chloe, in ways I never thought possible." Tears prick at the corners of my eyes, but I blink them back. "And you've changed me," I admit softly, "but the world isn't ready for us. Our families, our packs, our kind, they're not ready either." He nods solemnly. "Then we'll make them ready. Together." For the first time in days, weeks even, I let myself believe him. The path ahead will undoubtedly be fraught with challenges, but standing here with Damian, I feel a flicker of hope. Maybe love really can conquer all, if given the chance. Back inside, the festivities continue unabated. People sip champagne, exchange polite pleasantries, and marvel at the grandeur around them. None suspect the turmoil simmering beneath the surface, nor do they realize the significance of two individuals defying tradition simply by existing side by side. To them, we are strangers passing through. To each other, we are anchors in an uncertain sea. As midnight approaches, Damian takes my hand once more. "Ready?" he asks, his eyes searching mine. I nod, steeling myself for whatever comes next. Together, we leave the ballroom behind, stepping into the unknown. Whatever fate holds for us, one thing is certain: neither of us will face it alone. The secret about the werewolves had to remain hidden to prevent another war between their kind and the vampires, a conflict the Accords were created to avoid. If a vampire bonded with a werewolf and began to age, suspicions would arise quickly. Additionally, vampires like Damian's mother, who were already aware of the secret, would never tolerate the idea of their kin becoming mortal again. This put both Damian and me in grave danger. Ian suggested we proceed with the bonding ceremony, pretending I was human, and then disappear forever once it was done. Damian surprised me by readily agreeing to leave his cold, lonely world behind, even planning to take Rose with us, but he worried I wouldn't be able to abandon my pack. "It's okay, Chloe," he said softly, assuming I'd refuse. But I took his hand in mine and kissed it gently, my eyes scanning the ballroom one last time. Soon, we'd vanish from this place forever. The thought of never seeing anyone from my pack again pained me deeply. I had told Damian I wouldn't miss them, but that wasn't entirely true. I would miss them terribly. In an ideal world, I could have been with Damian, free of Nate, without sacrificing everything else. I wouldn't lose Emma's laughter, Harry's guidance, or even the playful arguments between Jake and Vivian. I wouldn't miss watching the children grow up or introducing Damian to my parents. Yet Damian and I couldn't be together openly, and running away with him seemed like my best chance at survival. Away from Nate, perhaps I could escape death. I wished things were different, but the truth was, I had already lost my pack long before meeting Damian. With or without him, my future no longer belonged with them. My real secret wasn't that I was about to become a vampire's bride. It was that I was still mated to Nate, a fact that had already condemned me to a life without a pack. As soon as they discovered what I had done, I'd be cast out anyway. So why not spare everyone the pain of disappointment and save myself the heartache of their judgment? Damian's blue gaze met mine from across the room, instantly warming my heart. Somehow, he had reignited hope within me, a hope for a better, happier life. It wouldn't be the one I had envisioned or desired, but it would fulfill me nonetheless because I couldn't imagine happiness without him anymore. Still, fear lingered. Would our time together be cut short? I struggled to believe that Damian truly wanted me around, that he genuinely loved me. He often told me I viewed love as something conditional, that I didn't need to earn his affection. But it was hard for me to see it any other way. Love, in my experience, came with strings attached, expectations I constantly felt I failed to meet. Despite these doubts, Damian's unwavering devotion gave me strength. His presence reminded me that there was still beauty to fight for, even if it meant leaving behind everything familiar. As the night wore on, I found myself torn between grief for what I was losing and gratitude for what I might gain. Damian represented freedom, a chance to break free from the chains of duty and guilt that had bound me for so long. Yet the cost of that freedom weighed heavily on my shoulders. Every smile shared with Emma, every word of wisdom from Harry, every moment spent among my pack members now felt bittersweet. These memories would sustain me in the days ahead, but they also served as a reminder of how much I stood to lose. Damian approached me then, his expression soft yet resolute. "Are you ready?" he asked quietly. "Ready to leave behind my old life, my identity as part of the pack, and step into the unknown?" I nodded, though uncertainty churned inside me. Together, we slipped out of the ballroom unnoticed, stepping into the cool night air. The stars above seemed distant, almost unreachable, mirroring the path we were embarking upon. We walked silently, hand in hand, until the mansion faded into the background. For the first time, I allowed myself to fully consider what lay ahead. Life with Damian would mean constant vigilance, always looking over our shoulders for those who might seek to harm us. It would mean forging a new family, one built on trust and love rather than bloodlines or traditions. And while the road ahead promised challenges, it also offered something rare, a chance to rewrite my story. No longer would I define myself by my mistakes or let guilt dictate my choices. With Damian by my side, I could create a future where I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. Yet, even as I embraced this newfound optimism, shadows of doubt lingered. Could I truly leave my past behind? Would Damian's love be enough to sustain me through the loneliness of exile? Only time would tell. For now, all I could do was take each step forward, clinging to the hope that love and the courage to follow it would guide me through the darkness. It's a very werewolf way of thinking to see love as conditional to performance. We live in packs, and everyone in the pack must contribute to the whole. Your place, the love others have for you, is directly linked to that contribution. Because I never contributed much, I always thought I wasn't worthy of love. Nate especially loves what can be admired, what can bring some shine onto him, though it should never outshine him completely. And I know others, like Harry, for example, love me despite everything, but even he puts others first, as if he doesn't deserve to simply be loved for who he is. Vivian broke off her engagement with Jake the second he lost his chance to become alpha. It's not that we wolves can't love, but what we are to the pack comes first. It's different with Damian. He doesn't expect me to be useful, which makes me wonder why he loves me. He has no expectations, and I'm not sure what to do with that. At least he needs my blood, I guess so he won't abandon me. Probably. But does this mean I've trapped him into being with me? My thoughts scatter when Damian places a hand on my lower back to whisper into my ear, "You look upset again." "I'm fine," I protest, turning to face him fully. He puts a hand on my cheek. "If this is too much and you'd rather not go through with it, we'll find another way," he says, grazing my skin with his finger. "You just need to say the word." "This isn't too much," I tell him. "It's me who's not enough." Damian frowns, searching my eyes. "I'm such a mess of a person," I confess, lowering my gaze. "I've been hiding things from my pack, from you. You deserve better." "Chloe," Damian says firmly, "I promise you that I could live 100 lives, and the only thing worth sticking around for in any of them would always be you. You're more than enough. You're everything." My words get stuck in my throat. How on earth am I supposed to respond to that? What can I possibly say to measure up to those words? "You barely know me," I hear myself reply, instantly regretting it. Couldn't I think of something better to say to him? Like how much he means to me. How, despite us not knowing each other for very long, he's become the best thing that ever happened to me? He deserves to hear it instead of lame protests and doubts. But somehow he just smiles and kisses my forehead like he's read my heart. "I do know you, my Chloe. I only hope that when you get to know me, you won't hate what you discover. Because I don't think I'll ever be able to let you go. I promise you that. You'll always have me." I'm about to reply, but the grand ballroom, the opulence of its golden chandeliers and shimmering silk gowns, tightens around me like a vice. My eyes roam over the mingling crowd of elegantly dressed vampires and their guests, catching sight of a trio of familiar figures weaving through the mass of bodies. My body freezes in place as I take in Harry's elegant profile, flanked by Vivian and Jake. The three of them look so natural here, amidst a sea of vampires, that it gives me vertigo. My mind races, panic clawing at me. Seeing them here feels surreal, almost invasive. They belong to two worlds now, bridging gaps I didn't even realize existed until recently. Yet here they stand, effortlessly blending into an environment where I feel like an outsider. Damian notices my tension and pulls me closer, his arm wrapping protectively around me. "Are you okay?" he murmurs, his voice low enough that only I can hear. I nod stiffly, forcing myself to breathe. "It's just unexpected." He follows my gaze and tenses slightly. "Do you want to leave?" "No," I say quickly, surprising even myself. Running away isn't the answer, not anymore. If I'm going to prove myself, to Damian, to my pack, to myself, I need to face this head on. Still, the weight of their presence presses down on me, reminding me of all the ties I've tried to untangle but remain stubbornly knotted. Harry spots us then, his sharp eyes locking onto mine before flickering to Damian. For a moment, there's nothing but silence between us, stretched thin across the room. Then he inclines his head slightly, acknowledging our presence without breaking stride. Vivian catches his movement and glances over, her expression unreadable. Jake, however, hesitates, his steps faltering as he meets my gaze. There's guilt there, plain as day, and something else. Regret, maybe, or pity. I turn away before I can decipher it further, focusing instead on Damian's steady warmth beside me. Whatever happens next, I remind myself, I'm not alone anymore. The music swells, filling the cavernous space with haunting melodies that seem to echo the turmoil inside me. Couples swirl across the dance floor, their movements graceful and precise, while others linger near the edges, engaged in quiet conversation. I feel out of place, like I'm wearing a mask that doesn't quite fit. Damian senses my unease and leans in again. We don't have to stay long, he reassures me, just long enough to make our presence known. I nod, grateful for his understanding. Making our presence known, that's something I can handle. It's small, manageable. A step forward instead of a leap. As we move deeper into the room, I catch snippets of conversations, whispers carried on the air like secrets meant to be overheard. Names I recognize mingle with ones I don't, creating a tapestry of intrigue I'm not sure I want to unravel. But one name stands out above the rest, spoken with reverence and a hint of fear. Alaric, the vampire king. My pulse quickens at the thought of him, though I've never met him. His reputation precedes him, casting a shadow over everything he touches. Even here, surrounded by power and elegance, his absence is palpable, a void that demands attention. Relax, Damian murmurs, brushing his thumb against my palm. You're safe with me. And for the first time tonight, I believe him. My throat tightens as I spot them across the room. Why are they here? Have they come to take me home? Do they know I'm about to become Damon's bride? The implications of their presence twist my stomach into knots. Sensing my distress, Damon leans closer, his voice a soft whisper against the swell of orchestral music. What's wrong? My alpha is here, I manage to choke out, my voice strained and barely audible. My fingers grip Damon's arm tightly, nails digging into the fabric of his suit. His gaze follows mine, spotting the trio. His expression remains unreadable, but his hand tightens around mine, a silent vow of protection. Why would they come to a vampire event like this? It doesn't make sense, I murmur, more to myself than to him. Each second they draw closer heightens the terror gripping my heart. This is a disaster I can't believe I didn't see coming. They're going to tear Damon and me apart. I scan the room frantically, half expecting more pack members to emerge from the shadows, all converging to prevent what they would see as a betrayal of our kind. Chloe, calm down. Werewolves sometimes attend these events for diplomacy, Damon reassures me, his tone steady. But diplomacy feels like a thin veil tonight, too fragile to cover the magnitude of what we are about to do. Damon, you don't understand. If they see the ceremony, if they realize what's happening... My voice trails off as the scenario unfolds in my mind like a car crash, except worse. I realize I'd been hoping to run away without ever having to bear witness to my pack's inevitable disappointment and betrayal. I realize how cowardly I've been, but that doesn't make me feel any braver for it. I don't think I'll be able to bear their judgment, especially not Harry's. He hasn't spotted me yet. His gaze is lost among the crowd, his expression pinched in a displeased frown. Beside him, Viv and Jake are deep in discussion, though they aren't openly fighting. Damon's eyes scan the crowd, assessing, calculating. Is there really not one of them you trust will understand? No one who will stand by you no matter what? He asks, his tone light but his gaze serious and probing. My mind races through the faces of my pack members. Each one brings a fresh sting of betrayal, except one. Emma, I say, her name a soft balm to my fraying nerves. But she isn't here. A flicker of relief passes through Damon's eyes, mingling with a spark of resolve. Emma, he repeats, nodding slightly in understanding. Your alpha's mate, yes? I frown, realizing I don't remember ever telling him Emma was Harry's mate. Now that Damon knows about my pack, I must have mentioned her at some point, but I'm guessing Harry's the one not staring at the redhead. Damon smirks. No, Harry's the one in the blue suit, I reply. Let me handle it, Damon says, and before I can protest, he strides toward Harry, his posture relaxed but authoritative. My heart catches in my throat as I watch them shake hands. What is he doing? Damon's confidence is unwavering as he engages Harry in conversation. From where I stand, I can't hear their words, but the tension between them is palpable. Harry's demeanor shifts subtly. He's listening, though his expression remains guarded. Damon speaks with an ease that belies the gravity of the situation, his gesture smooth and deliberate. Whatever he's saying seems to hold Harry's attention, and for a fleeting moment, I allow myself to hope. But then I see Viv glance in my direction, her sharp eyes narrowing as they lock onto me. Her lips move in a quick exchange with Jake, and suddenly, all three of them are looking at me. Panic surges through me, hot and suffocating. I want to disappear, to vanish into the crowd, but there's nowhere to hide. Damon returns to my side, his presence a steadying force despite the chaos brewing around us. "It's handled, for now," he says, his voice low. "For now?" I echo, my voice trembling. "They're not leaving yet, Chloe. You knew this wouldn't be easy." "I didn't think it would be this hard," I admit, the weight of everything pressing down on me. The guilt, the fear, the love I feel for Damon, it's all tangled together, pulling me in different directions. I've spent so long trying to prove myself to my pack, to earn their trust and respect, and now it feels like I'm throwing it all away. Damon cups my face in his hands, forcing me to meet his gaze. "You're not betraying anyone by choosing happiness, by choosing me. Your pack will come to understand, even if it takes time." "But what if they don't?" I whisper, tears welling in my eyes. "What if they never forgive me?" "That's a risk we'll have to take," he says firmly, though his touch is gentle. "But I promise you this, I will never let them take you away from me. Not now, not ever." His words ignite a spark of defiance within me, a reminder of why I chose this path in the first place. I didn't choose Damon because I wanted to abandon my pack. I chose him because he makes me stronger, because he sees me for who I truly am, and because being with him gives me hope for a future I never thought possible. As the night wears on, I find myself clinging to that hope, even as the storm clouds gather around us. Harry approaches eventually, his steps measured and deliberate. When he stops before me, his eyes are filled with a mixture of anger and something else. Disappointment, perhaps, or maybe sadness. "You're making a mistake," he says, his voice low and heavy with authority. "This isn't just about you, Chloe. It's about the pack, about loyalty." "I haven't forgotten my loyalty," I reply, my voice shaking but resolute. "But I refuse to sacrifice my happiness for the sake of tradition." "I'm not asking for your blessing, Harry. I'm telling you that this is who I am now." For a long moment, he simply stares at me, his jaw clenched. Then, without another word, he turns and walks away. Viv and Jake follow silently, their expressions unreadable. The battle isn't over, I know that much. But for the first time, I feel like I've taken a step toward claiming my own destiny. And as Damon takes my hand in his, I know I won't face it alone. The urge to follow prickles at me, but I force myself to stay put, my hands clenching into fists at my sides. From here, I can't hear what they're saying, the numerous conversations droning out the one I want to listen to. They exchange a few words at most before Damon leads Harry away toward one of the balconies, seeking privacy. A cold sweat breaks across my forehead. Is Damon going to tell him? Ask for his permission? The thought that Harry might see me differently after learning the truth, that he might look at me with anything other than kindness, feels like a stab to the heart. Hopefully, Emma will put in a good word. She likes Damon, I'm sure of it. I wish she were here, but I'm guessing Harry refused to bring her near any vampires. I imagine her pacing furiously around her bedroom as she waits for his return, a small smile tugging at my lips. She must be furious with him for leaving her behind, especially so soon after rekindling their bond, a time when their need for each other must be especially strong. Harry's not going to be in a good mood. Realizing this, I think I should probably step outside and help Damon explain our situation to him. He needs me. It's not fair that I leave him alone to face my problems. I take a step toward him, but a hand on my shoulder intercepts me. "You look ravishing, my dear," Ian Cromwell tells me with a smile. He looks very dashing in his dark red suit, though my attention is quickly swept by his daughter, who's glaring at me like she's debating whether or not to throw me down the stairs. "Darling, don't you have anything you'd like to say to Chloe?" Ian prompts, giving Alexandra a warning look. She purses her lips, disdain plain across her features. "I don't approve of this union," she grits through her teeth. Now, Ian smiles as if she just said something pleasant. "Chloe makes Damian happy." Alexandra rolls her eyes before stepping away, though not without sending me one last venomous glare. "I, for one, am happy you'll be joining our family, Chloe," Ian assures me kindly. "Even if we won't be seeing each other often after tonight." He's asking if everything is ready for our departure. I nod, feeling slightly better at the prospect of it. "Good," Cromwell says. "I think my grandson is about done with his conversation. How about you join him outside?" My gaze travels back to Damon, who's standing outside alone, Harry having gone back inside. He looks calm, or at least not like he's seconds away from dragging me away by force, which I guess is good news, though I'm left wondering what Damon has told him. Surely not the truth, for Harry wouldn't look so indifferent if he had. I quickly make my way to him outside, ignoring a couple of greetings as I walk past vaguely familiar faces. "What did you tell him?" I whisper to Damon as I arrive beside him. "Nothing important," Damon replies, pulling me into his arms. "Damian," I insist, moving away to search his expression. "I asked him to relay a message to—" Damon cuts me off, his tone soothing but firm. And he agreed that's all that matters right now. His confidence does little to ease the knot tightening in my chest. "What kind of message?" I press, unwilling to let it go. Damon sighs, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "One that ensures your safety. Trust me, love, this was the best way." Trust. The word echoes hollowly in my mind. How can I trust anyone when every decision feels like walking on thin ice? My thoughts drift back to Harry. Will he keep his word, or will Damon's plea fall on deaf ears once he learns the full extent of what's happening? "You're overthinking again," Damon murmurs, reading me too well. His thumb brushes against my cheek, grounding me momentarily. "Let's focus on tonight, one step at a time." Reluctantly, I nod, allowing him to lead me further onto the balcony. The cool night air wraps around us, offering a brief reprieve from the suffocating tension inside. Below, the city lights stretch endlessly, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within me. "You know," Damon begins softly, "we've faced worse than this, together." His words are meant to reassure, but they only remind me of how much we've already lost, and how much more hangs precariously in the balance. Still, I manage a faint smile, leaning into him despite my reservations. For now, his presence is enough. Inside, the party continues unabated, laughter and music spilling out onto the terrace, yet none of it reaches me. All I can think about is the fragile thread holding everything together and how easily it could snap. "Your friend Emma speaks well of you on my behalf," He sounds sincere. I think he's telling the truth. What kind of message? I ask with a frown. All in good time, Damon replies, placing a tender kiss on my forehead, leaving me dumbfounded. He briefly checks his watch, a grim smile grazing his lips. Any time now, he says. I'm guessing he's talking about the ceremony, and fear twists my stomach once more. It's going to be fine, Damon reassures me. Did you finish that book I gave you? I frown, wondering why he's thinking about that at a moment like this. I was rather hoping it would be a source of comfort to you should anything happen, Damon whispers into my ear. Keep that in mind, all right? I open my mouth, a series of questions about to spill, but that's when Damon is pulled away from me. Suddenly, in his place, stands someone I'd hoped I'd never see again. Hello, baby, Nate greets me with a thunderous expression. There was a time when looking at Nate's face, the light freckles on his nose and the slightly green tint of his eyes under a certain light would bring me immense joy. I can't even remember how that felt now. All that I see upon seeing him is fear, a profound unease rooted in my very core. What are you doing here? I ask, glancing behind him at Damon, who's wincing from having essentially been thrown into a back wall. He looks fine, though. What am I doing here? Nate scoffs, fury burning in his gaze. What are you doing here? And don't even think about lying to me. He grabs my wrist, twisting it painfully, making me gasp. Get away from her, Damon says, getting back up. Nate ignores him, pulling me towards him. You're not even sorry, are you? Some mate you are, he sneers, further twisting my arm. Damian grabs his shoulder, forcing Nate away. I said, let her go. I realized too late that he'd been expecting Nate to comply, and for good reason. A club full of silhouettes frozen in time flashes before my eyes. Damon could very well make anybody comply with his commands. He has the power to do so. Brief relief courses through me for a short, traitorous second, and then Nate grabs him by the throat. Damon's eyes widen in surprise. The hell do you think you are? My mate growls, walking Damon backward, squeezing his neck. Stop, I yell, throwing myself at Nate's back, trying to get him to let go. He drags me off. Is that who you've been ignoring me for? Nate sneers, eyes fixed on Damian. A vampire, Chloe? Really? Behind us, the altercation is attracting attention from the ballroom. I hear people moving toward us, wondering what's going on, though no one is jumping in to help. I rather think the vampires are enjoying the show. Yeah, Damon says, smirking despite the obvious pain he's in. What does this say about you? Nate screams in rage. And before I even have the chance to move, he's throwing Damon's body against the edge of the balcony and biting right into his neck. My scream gets stuck in my throat. Damon gasps, briefly grazing the bleeding injury with his fingers before Nate pushes him off the balcony. His body disappears over the edge, and I feel the world tilt beneath me. No! I cry out, lunging forward, but Nate's grip on me is unyielding. Let me go, I shout, tears streaming down my face as I struggle against him. You don't get to do this. You don't get to ruin everything. Nate's expression softens ever so slightly, but the hardness in his eyes remains. Ruin everything? He repeats, his voice low and dangerous. You did that yourself when you chose him over me. I didn't choose anyone, I snap back, my voice breaking. You left me no choice, Nate. You manipulated me, lied to me, and hurt everyone I care about. And now you're killing them right in front of me. How could you? His jaw tightens, and for a moment, I think he might actually listen. But then his grip tightens further, and he pulls me closer. You don't understand, Chloe. You never did. I'm trying to save you. From him, from them, from yourself. Save me? I echo, incredulous. This isn't saving me, Nate. This is destroying me. I wrench myself free, stumbling backward, my chest heaving as I try to catch my breath. Around us, the crowd begins to murmur, their amusement fading into something darker, more uncertain. Even the vampires seem uneasy now, their smirks slipping as they take in the chaos unfolding before them. I glance over the edge of the balcony, searching desperately for any sign of Damon, but there's nothing, just an abyss of shadows swallowing everything whole. My heart pounds in my ears, each beat a reminder of what I've lost, what I might still lose if I don't act. Think, Chloe, think. There has to be a way out of this. Nate steps closer, his movements deliberate, predatory. You can't run from me, he says, his voice almost gentle now. I know you better than anyone. I know what you need, even if you don't see it yet. I shake my head, backing away until my back hits the railing. Don't come any closer, I warn, my voice trembling. Please, Nate, just stop. He pauses, his brow furrowing as though genuinely confused by my reaction. Stop, he echoes. Stop what, Chloe? Saving you? Protecting you? I close my eyes, willing myself to stay calm, to find some shred of clarity in the storm raging inside me. When I open them again, Nate is mere inches away, his hands reaching for mine. I flinch, but he doesn't pull back. Instead, he cups my face, forcing me to look at him. Look at me, he insists, his voice raw with emotion. Tell me you don't feel it, that connection between us. Tell me you don't remember what we had. I want to deny it, to spit in his face and tell him he's wrong. But the truth is, I do remember. I remember the laughter, the stolen moments, the way he used to make me feel like I was the only person in the world who mattered. And maybe that's why this hurts so much, because I know how far he's fallen, how much he's changed. Nate, I whisper, my voice barely audible over the growing tension in the room. You're not the person I fell in love with anymore. He freezes, his hands falling away as though burned. For a moment, he just stares at me, his expression unreadable. Then, without another word, he turns and walks away, disappearing into the crowd. The silence that follows is deafening. I sink to my knees, overwhelmed by the weight of everything that's happened. The betrayal, the loss, the choices I've made, they all crash down on me at once, leaving me breathless. But amidst the despair, there's also a flicker of resolve. I won't let Nate or anyone else control my life anymore. Whatever happens next, I'll face it on my own terms, because that's the only way I'll survive. The body plunges downward, disappearing from view. This time, I scream in horror, leaping onto Nate's back and encircling his neck with both arms. With all the strength I can muster, I tighten my grip. "Get off me!" Nate groans, clearly surprised by the sudden attack. Desperation fuels my movements as I squeeze harder. He bit him. He bit Damian. The thought sends a wave of terror crashing over me, but I try to push it away, clinging to denial for a few more seconds. Perhaps I've seen it wrong. Maybe I imagined it. Nate couldn't have bitten Damian. He just couldn't. But the screams around us tell a different story. People are shouting and running past us, likely searching for Damian. "Chloe," Nate gasps as he stumbles backward, slamming my body into a wall. Pain explodes behind my eyes as my skull absorbs most of the impact. I ignore it, tightening my hold on him with every ounce of strength I possess. Fury blinds me to everything else. "I'm going to kill you," I mutter into his ear, and I mean it. He has to pay for what he's done. He's taken everything from me, ruined my life for years, and now, just as I was starting to find happiness again, he's taken the person I love most. "I can't breathe," Nate chokes out, falling to his knees. "Good," I think bitterly, squeezing even harder. I want him dead. Nothing would bring me more satisfaction than feeling the life drain out of him. "Chloe!" A familiar voice booms behind me, freezing me in place. Though I don't release my grip immediately, I recognize the commanding tone. It's Harry, my alpha. His voice cuts through the chaos, laced with an unyielding authority. For wolves like me, commands from our alpha carry weight akin to compulsion. My wolf instinctively urges me to obey, and my arms loosen against my will, releasing Nate. I scream in frustration, shooting Harry a betrayed look through tear-filled eyes. "Chloe," he says, reaching out to me, but I recoil with a snarl. Another horrified scream echoes from below, drawing my attention back to the balcony's edge. Vivian and Jake arrive to restrain Nate, but I don't care. Kicking off my shoes, I leap over the railing and land in the gardens below. My eyes quickly scan the area until they fall on a small crowd gathered nearby. Panic seizes me as I sprint toward them, shoving protesting vampires out of my way without a second thought. And then I see him, Damian, lying motionless at my feet. Blood drips steadily from the wound on his neck, his eyes closed. "No," I gasp, dropping beside him. My hands grasp his shoulders, shaking him desperately, but there's no response. Blood stains my fingers now, and I stare at it, disbelief and horror gripping my heart. There's so much blood, I can't look away. Slowly, anguish gives way to a strange sense of fascination that I can't explain. Glancing around to ensure no one is watching, I hesitantly stick a finger coated in Damian's blood into my mouth, licking it off before I can think twice. There's no time to dwell on what I've just done. Strong arms suddenly wrap around me, pulling me away. Pulling me away, I try to shake them off, but I'm stunned into silence as Ian Cromwell enters my field of vision, kneeling beside Damian. Terror marks his features. He's dead. A man who was already here before us tells him with a grim expression, confirming what I already knew. Ian shakes his head in disbelief. "He can't be," he whispers, turning to Damian, trying to shake him in turn. "Werewolf bite," someone whispers from behind me, making Ian snap his face up toward me. "What's the meaning of this?" he asks in a thunderous voice. I feel my lips move, but I can't manage a sound. Nate killed him. He killed Damian, who's lying right there in front of me, motionless, when he was alive and well only moments ago. "Chloe," Harry arrives beside me, wrapping his arms around me. My gaze snaps toward him, and for a moment, I'm naive again and firmly believe he's going to fix everything for me and make the world better and right again. I wait for him to do so, but he just searches my expression, brows furrowed worriedly. "It was him," Alexandra says, because she's dare too now and looking downright murderous. She's pointing toward Nate, who's regained consciousness and is being brought toward us by Jake and Viv, who are each holding on to one of his arms. "He's the one who killed my son." She walks toward Nate, but is intercepted by Cromwell, who stops her with a hand. "Alexandra," he grits out between his teeth. "He's a werewolf. We can't just kill him. He needs to stand trial." "He killed Damian. Everybody saw him," she screeches, furious. Because of her, Alexandra points an accusing finger toward me, which would scare me, except I don't have the strength to feel anything. Don't you dare try to deny it. You know this, wolf. Harry's grip tightens around me in warning, but I ignore him. They can do whatever they want to me. I don't care anymore. Why would I? Yes, I whisper. I know him. He's my mate. He killed Damian because of me. Stunned whispers echo around me. Horrified gazes are exchanged. He's not your mate anymore, Viv protests, but I interrupt her. Yes, he is. We're mated. This is all my fault. Slowly, I turn toward Ian Cromwell, not for forgiveness exactly, for what I've done is irreparable, but maybe for understanding, to share my grief with him somehow. You, he says, recoiling in horror, you betrayed us. I burst into sobs. I trusted you, Damian's grandfather drones on, disgust twisting his features. I stood by you. I supported your engagement with Damian, despite everyone being against him entering a blood bond. Harry interrupts, trying to meet my gaze. What are you talking about, Chloe? My grandson loved you. Cromwell snaps. You manipulated him. You lied to him. Was this your intention all along, to have him killed? I shake my head desperately. I'm aware everyone, vampires and werewolves alike, are staring at me. Mr. Cromwell, I'm so sorry, I choke. I never thought. It was never my intention. It was never your intention to hide that you are a werewolf? Cromwell's voice seems to boom around me, freezing me in place. Really then? How could no one, not even me, realize what you are? He glances around the gathering crowd, jaw clenched. We all should have known. There must be some magic involved for you to deceive us all like this. And now you want us to believe your intentions weren't deceitful from the start? I gape at him, confusion clouding my senses. What is he talking about? He knows exactly how I managed to hide that I was a werewolf. He's the one who helped conceal it. Why is he acting as though he has no idea what I am, when being a wolf is precisely why he hired me? I open my mouth to ask him, but he cuts me off before I can speak. Take her away, he barks, and two vampires step forward to pull me to my feet. And don't try to stop me, Alpha Cromwell, he adds toward Harry. She will stand trial. But mark my words, if we find out she and her mate were acting on your orders, fear snaps me into action. You know we weren't, I plead, trying to catch Cromwell's gaze. Mr. Cromwell, you were the one who hired me. Cromwell's dark eyes lock onto mine, cold and cutting as any death sentence. Hired you? He scoffs. You insane fool. I did no such thing. My heart stops. What is he saying? Is he denying it? I would never hire a werewolf to be my grandson's bride. He sneers at the very idea. You didn't hire me to be his bride, I protest weakly as the vampires drag me upright under Harry's horrified gaze. It's hard to think clearly when all I can see is Damian, lifeless, unmoving. You hired me to be his bodyguard, I murmur, barely audible even to myself as realization crashes over me once more. All the ways I failed Damian flood my mind. Chloe, Harry snaps, briefly pulling my attention away from Damian's still form. Stop talking. But it's true, I insist, desperation clawing at my voice. Vivian was there, right? Vivian, tell them. I turn to her, searching for support, clinging to the hope that someone will back me up. But that support doesn't come. My heart sinks as I take in her stunned expression. Vivian wouldn't lie, not about something like this, but she looks genuinely confused, as if she has no memory of what I'm referring to. No, Chloe, she whispers, shaking her head slightly in denial before pressing her lips together tightly. We shall discuss this during her trial, Vivian says to Cromwell with an unreadable expression. When will it take place? Cromwell demands sharply. They begin negotiating a date, but their voices fade into the background. My mind races, struggling to process what just happened. Am I losing my grip on reality? I remember meeting Cromwell with Vivian. I recall him explaining how Damian's life was in danger and how he wanted a werewolf to protect him. Yet he'd forbidden me from telling anyone, including Damian himself. And now I understand why. No one would have believed I was his bride if they knew I was a wolf. Werewolf blood makes a vampire mortal. I think back to earlier today when Damian had tried to use his powers against Nate to no avail. I remember all the times he'd drunk from me recently. He'd lost his ability because of it, because of me. The only person who knew about my real identity was Cromwell. The only person who knew I'd been Damian's bodyguard was Cromwell. He knows I've saved Damian's life before. He even thanked me once after Damian drank from me to counteract poison. Surely he can't believe. But then it hits me. Maybe none of those memories are real. Or worse, maybe they've been altered somehow. How else could everyone, including Cromwell, act as though none of it ever happened? If Cromwell truly believes I deceived him, then everything I thought I knew about my purpose here falls apart. Was I wrong to trust him? To trust any of them? The weight of doubt presses down on me, suffocating. Every instinct screams that something deeper is at play here, something beyond simple misunderstanding or betrayal. Magic swirls thick in the air, unseen but undeniable. Someone or something is manipulating the truth, twisting it until even I question what's real and what isn't. And if I can't rely on my own memories, how can I possibly defend myself? As the vampires lead me away, I glance back at Harry, silently pleading for help. His face is etched with concern, but also hesitation. Whatever bond exists between us feels fragile now, stretched thin by circumstances neither of us fully understands. Emma stands beside him, her expression unreadable, though I sense she wants to intervene. But she remains silent, bound by loyalty to Harry, or perhaps fear of crossing Cromwell. My thoughts spiral further as I consider Damian. Dead, gone, because of me. That fact alone is enough to crush whatever resolve I might have left. If I hadn't let him drink from me, if I hadn't hidden the truth about my nature, maybe things would be different. Maybe he'd still be alive. Guilt claws at me, relentless and unforgiving. Even if I survive this trial, how can I live with the knowledge that I failed him so completely? The room grows distant as I'm led through the corridors, each step heavier than the last. The faces of those I pass blur together, their whispers indistinct yet piercing. Accusations hang in the air, sharp and unrelenting. Traitor, liar, murderer. Each word cuts deeper than the last until I'm not sure where external judgment ends and internal condemnation begins. If Cromwell orchestrated this entire charade, if he planted false memories in my mind to serve some greater purpose, I may never uncover the truth. And if I do, will it matter? By then, it might already be too late. Too late for redemption, too late for justice, too late for Damian. Yet, amidst the chaos, a flicker of determination ignites within me. I won't let them break me, not without a fight. Whatever game Cromwell is playing, whatever forces are working against me, I'll find a way to expose the truth for Damian, for myself, for everyone caught in this tangled web of lies. Intentions were all something that clicked in my mind. Damian had been taken to a club owned by friends of the Cromwells. Marco Rossi, the obvious culprit behind his kidnapping, didn't even seem aware of Damian's presence in his club. I knew to give Damian some of my blood upon being poisoned precisely because Cromwell encouraged it, despite knowing that my blood could make Damian mortal. He never forbade me from letting him drink from me. In fact, it was almost like he wanted it to happen. "Chloe," Nate whispers beside me. We are both held next to each other, hands tied behind our backs. "Where are we?" "What's going on?" he asks, looking sincerely confused. My eyes widen in horror as realization hits me. Marco Rossi had no idea Damian was at his club. Nate has no clue why he's here either. Neither Jake nor Vivian seem to remember hiring me as a bodyguard for the vampires, almost like their minds had been tampered with. It dawns on me too late. That's exactly what happened. "It was you!" I screech in horror, trying to break free from the vampire holding me, desperate to throw myself at Cromwell as I'm dragged away. "You did this! You killed him!" Damon's grandfather watches me go with a glint in his eyes, one that seems to tell only me. He knows very well no one will believe me. "You may not have killed him directly," he says calmly, his gaze impenetrable, "but I will make you pay for harming my grandson." Then, knowing full well all eyes are on us, he smirks. We both know the real mastermind behind Damon's death is none other than him. 2 months ago, during a night of patrol, the vampire doesn't even try to fight back as I pull her off the human she'd been about to attack. Her victim, a young man, collapses to the ground, seemingly unconscious. But I don't have time to check on him because the vampire throws herself at me, forcing me to dodge and leap away. In the back of my mind, I reach out to sense how far Vivian is from me right now. If there's any chance she'd hear me should I call for help. We probably shouldn't have split up earlier, but we thought covering more ground would be efficient. The night had stretched into the early hours of the morning, and we were both eager to finish quickly. I need to immobilize this vampire and try to reason with her. I duck under a punch and raise my arm to parry another, and then another. Suddenly, she commands, "Stop." Horrified, I feel myself freeze in place, unable to move. This vampire has just used her compulsion powers on me, and it's as effective as I've heard they can be. I strain against it, trying to force my limbs to obey, but they won't budge. "Relax," the vampire tells me, and instantly my shoulders loosen. A strange yet pleasant calm washes over me. "I'm going to ask you a few questions, which you're going to answer truthfully. Then I'm going to walk away, and once I'm gone, you'll forget you ever saw or spoke with me. Nod if you understand." I nod. "What do you know about the Accords?" she asks. The vampire asks what my alpha told me about their kind. I answer calmly, explaining what I know. The Accords aim to prevent war between our species. Essentially, they state that we cannot bite each other. "That's all you know?" the vampire insists. I nod. "All right, next question," she continues. "How close are you with your pack? Do you get along with them?" I reply with a slight frown, which doesn't escape her notice. "Yes," I say hesitantly, unsure if I should share more with a stranger. "You can trust me," the vampire smiles kindly. "I won't tell anyone, I promise." Under her reassuring gaze, I relax. Of course I can trust her. It feels like a weight lifting off my chest as I confess. I love my pack, but I'm afraid of being kicked out if my alpha finds out what I've done. A tear escapes my eye, and the vampire gently catches it with her finger. "That's pretty good," she says, pulling out her phone. Another vampire arrives beside her, glancing briefly at me. You think you found one? He asks curiously. Maybe, she replies, dialing a number. Hey, boss, it's me. I think I may have found a good candidate for you. Yes, a girl. She's blonde, very pretty, and afraid of being kicked out of her pack. After a pause, she adds, Yes, all right, we'll be right over. She ends the call and looks at her companion. Boss wants to see her, she says. He nods. We're going to take a little trip, she tells me, pointing towards a car parked at the corner of the back alley where we were fighting. You won't remember any of this once we're done, she assures me. I nod serenely as I step into the car. You're lucky, you know, the vampire tells me as we drive off. It's not every day one of you wolves attracts the attention of a vampire king. We've been searching for a good candidate for months now. I agree dazedly, nodding my head. Do you think once he finds what he's looking for, Cromwell won't let us attack humans anymore? The male vampire asks. Surely not, my captor replies. It's against the accords. Cromwell's not an idiot, though. What he has in mind, I have no idea. Time blurs, measured only by the faint echoes of distant footsteps and the soft drip of water somewhere nearby. The air is thick and heavy, carrying the musty scent of mold and the unmistakable chill of damp stone. My gown, once a sparkling cascade of gold, now clings coldly to my skin, each sequin a tiny shard of the shattered evening. I press my back against the rough stone wall of the cell, the uneven surface leaching the remaining warmth from my body. The memories flood back. The ball, Nate's attack on Damian, the chaos that followed. Everything feels distant now, as though it happened to someone else. My mind drifts between fear and resolve, fear of what awaits me, and resolve to protect those I care about, no matter the cost. I think of my pack, of Harry and Emma, of Damian. They must be searching for me, but how far will they go, and how much danger am I putting them in by being here? The sound of approaching footsteps snaps me out of my thoughts. Heavy boots echo against the stone floor, growing louder with each step. Two figures appear at the edge of the dim light spilling into my cell. One is the vampire who brought me here. The other is taller, his presence commanding. This must be the king they spoke of, Cromwell. His piercing gaze locks onto mine, assessing, calculating. You've caused quite a stir, he says, his voice smooth yet laced with authority. Tell me, why should I spare you? Spare me? The word sends a shiver down my spine. I straighten my posture, trying to appear stronger than I feel. Because I'm not afraid to fight for what matters, I reply, my voice steadier than I expect. And because harming me won't bring you closer to whatever goal you're chasing. Cromwell smirks, clearly amused. Bold words for someone in your position, but bravery alone won't save you. He steps closer, his eyes narrowing. What do you know about the bond between werewolves and vampires? My heart skips a beat. Does he know about Nate? About the secret I've kept hidden even from my own pack? I swallow hard, choosing my words carefully. Only rumors, I say, stories passed down through generations, nothing concrete. His smirk deepens. Rumors can be dangerous things, especially when they hold a kernel of truth. He turns to the female vampire. Prepare her. We'll see just how much she knows and how useful she can be. As they leave, dread settles in my chest. Whatever lies ahead, I know it won't be easy, but I also know I can't give up. Not now, not ever. For my pack, For Damian and for myself, I must find a way to survive. The sharp edges of the cold, unyielding surface bite into my skin through the delicate fabric of my clothes. The darkness here is almost suffocating, swallowing the faint light that trickles in from a small barred window high above. It mirrors the desolation in my heart, a void where Damian's laughter and warmth once thrived. Every shiver that courses through me serves as a stark reminder of his absence, each cold stone a testament to the harsh reality of my loss. The silence is oppressive, broken only by the echoes of my own ragged breathing and the distant, haunting drip of water. This cell feels like a tomb, not just for my body, but for every hope and dream that blossomed in Damian's presence. All that remains now is the cold, suffocating weight of a future without him. Ever since we've been locked in here, Nate in the cell next to mine, I've been bombarded by images I can't make sense of. Dreamlike memories resurface, fragments of conversations with Cromwell days before everything unraveled. Vivian had accompanied me then, but bits of those exchanges come back to me now with unsettling clarity. Details I hadn't remembered until this moment, if they're even real at all. I recall being taken to see Cromwell under the influence of compulsion, answering questions about Nate, Harry, and our pack. He'd asked if I harbored secrets, how I might react if he offered me an escape, and spent time molding my mind to accept working for him as his grandson's bodyguard as the perfect solution to my problems. He assured me I'd agree when we met again soon. These recollections grow more vivid with each passing second, gnawing at my sanity. But it doesn't stop there. Another memory surfaces. Cromwell visiting me one evening after I moved in with Damian, urging me to seduce him, to tempt him into drinking from me. A wave of nausea twists my stomach as it all comes rushing back in torturous clarity. It becomes painfully clear that Cromwell hired me not to protect Damian, as he claimed, but to orchestrate his downfall in the most despicable ways imaginable. Why? Why go through such elaborate schemes? My thoughts spiral as anger simmers beneath my skin. It doesn't make any sense, I mutter, kicking the bars of my cell in frustration. If his goal was simply to eliminate Damian, why involve me? Why not just kill him outright and frame someone random, like Marco Rossi? Why engineer my role as Damian's bride? Nate groans from the adjacent cell. We're as good as dead here. Shut up, I snap, though his words hit their mark, sinking deep into my chest. Cromwell's plan was meticulously crafted. Who would believe he'd ever allow a werewolf to become his heir's bride? None of it makes sense. And besides, everyone saw Nate killing Damian. My heart clenches at the thought, fresh tears streaming down my face, sobs choking my throat. Nate's right. It doesn't matter anymore. Not now, with Damian gone. Ugh, will you stop crying? Nate snaps irritably. You're going to be fine. Harry and the others won't let anything happen to you, all right? I'm the one who's going to get killed because of what happened. I don't care what happens to me, I whisper into my knees, hugging them close. Easy for you to say, Nate retorts bitterly. You're not the one who's going to lose your head. His words hang heavy between us, punctuated by the oppressive silence of the dungeon. Despite his bravado, I hear the tremor in his voice, the fear laced within his defiance. For all his posturing, Nate knows as well as I do that neither of us has much hope left. The weight of guilt crushes me further. Guilt over Damian's death. Guilt over dragging Nate into this mess. Guilt over failing everyone who ever trusted me. As I sit in the darkness, drowning in despair, flashes of happier times flicker across my mind. Moments shared with Damian, his smile, his touch, the way he made me feel seen and valued despite my flaws. Those memories are bittersweet now, tainted by the knowledge that I played a part in his demise. How could I have been so blind, so manipulated? And yet, amidst the anguish, a spark of determination ignites within me. Damian may be gone, but I refuse to let his death and mine or Nate's be in vain. Cromwell thinks he's won, thinks he's orchestrated everything perfectly, but he underestimated me, just like so many others have before. I won't give him the satisfaction of breaking me completely. I think of Harry, Emma, and the rest of the pack. They've always stood by me, believed in me, even when I doubted myself. They deserve better than this. If there's even the slimmest chance I can turn things around, expose Cromwell's treachery, and clear Nate's name, I owe it to them and to Damian to try. Drawing in a shaky breath, I push myself to my feet, gripping the bars of my cell tightly. The metal digs into my palms. "Nate," I say quietly, my voice steadier than I expected. "What?" he mutters, resignation dripping from his tone. "We're getting out of here," he scoffs. "Yeah, sure, because escaping a dungeon designed to hold supernatural beings is so easy." "It has to be possible," I insist, refusing to let doubt creep in. "If Cromwell wanted us dead already, we wouldn't still be breathing. There's something bigger at play here, something he hasn't told us yet. We need to figure it out, and fast." For the first time since we were thrown into this nightmare, Nate falls silent. Maybe he's considering my words, or maybe he's too exhausted to argue anymore. Either way, I cling to the fragile thread of hope forming in my chest. Hope that I can undo the damage done. Hope that I can prove myself to those who matter most. Hope that I can honor Damian's memory by fighting back against the forces that tore him away from me. Even in the depths of despair, determination burns bright. And as long as I draw breath, I'll fight for justice, for redemption, and for the future I'm determined to reclaim. The vampires interrupt our discussion by opening the door and waving someone inside. My attention sharpens instantly as I recognize a familiar scent filling the room. Harry. Stunned, I watch him walk past the guard, his hurried steps carrying him toward me. He's still dressed in the same suit from before, though now it looks slightly disheveled. His features are drawn, grim, and his hair is tousled. I can't bring myself to meet his gaze and feel myself shrinking into a ball, as if trying to hide from his sight. "Chloe," he asks, his tone kind and patient, "how are you holding up?" I don't know what to say, and might have stayed silent if I hadn't felt his fingers graze my arms through the prison bars. "Look at me, kid," I hear him say, his voice filled with the warmth I've always known from him, but thought I'd never hear again. It washes over me like a balm, not erasing my pain, but giving me the courage to meet his gaze. His eyes are filled with worry and compassion. "Harry," I whisper, my throat tight. "I'm so sorry about everything. I'm so ashamed." "No, Chloe," he says firmly, briefly squeezing my arm. "I'm the one who should be sorry. I'm your alpha. I should have protected you." He looks so defeated that it breaks something inside me. I wish I could throw myself into his arms, but all I can manage is to move slightly closer and grab his hand. "Don't say that," I protest. "You're not responsible for my mistakes." Harry's eyes snap toward Nate. If anyone knows how difficult it is to break a mating bond, it's me, he tells me, bringing fresh tears to my eyes. "Of course you struggle to stay away from him. And I hate that I made you feel as though you couldn't trust me with this." His shoulders sag in defeat, leaving me stunned into silence. I'm such an idiot. How could I ever think Harry would do anything but blame himself for my situation? Of course he would. He always blames himself for everything. I'm crying again, wondering if it will ever stop. "This is all my fault," I begin. "Heck yeah, it is," a familiar voice interrupts. "Shut up, Nate," I snap, fury lacing my words. "For once in your life, just shut the hell up." Miraculously, he complies. I turn back to Harry. "I do trust you," I assure him, wanting more than anything for him to stop torturing himself because of something I did. But then I remember what Nate had done to Emma. Harry's hand clenches around mine while Nate snorts in disbelief. "I didn't do shit to Emma," he scowls, but immediately falls silent, head lowered in compliance, as Harry emits a low, menacing growl. "Don't say her name," Harry warns, making both Nate and me flinch, a reaction that doesn't escape my alpha's notice. "Sorry," Harry tells me with a grimace. He takes a breath. "Chloe, I don't blame you for what he did. You know that. Neither does she." "But I got back together with him despite it," I protest, even though I don't fully understand why myself. "Oh, that's rich coming from you," Nate interjects once more. "I forgave you for nearly killing my sister, did I not?" I freeze. There it is, the thing it always comes back to. He forgave me for Evie. How could I not forgive him for Emma? Harry sighs deeply, running a hand through his already messy hair. "Chloe, forgiveness isn't about owing someone. It's about moving forward. You've been carrying this guilt for too long, and it's tearing you apart. Stop blaming yourself for things beyond your control." "It's not that simple," I mutter, looking away. "It never is," Harry agrees softly. "But you're stronger than this. You've proven time and again that you'll fight for what matters. Trust yourself, kid. Trust us." His words hit me harder than I expect. For so long, I've internalized every mistake, every failure, as if they define me. But maybe Harry's right. Maybe I need to let go of the weight I've been carrying. Nate shifts uncomfortably behind me, his presence a constant reminder of the tangled web I've woven. Yet even now, despite everything, I can't deny the pull I feel toward him, the bond that refuses to break no matter how much I wish it would. Harry seems to sense my inner turmoil. "Breaking a bond like that isn't easy," he says gently. "It doesn't mean you're weak for feeling it. What matters is what you choose to do next." I nod slowly, absorbing his words. The determination to change, to fix what I've broken, burns brighter within me. I glance at Nate, then back at Harry. "I want to make things right," I say finally, my voice steadier than I expected. "For everyone, for the pack, for Emma, for you." Harry gives me a small, proud smile. "Then we'll figure it out together. That's what family does." Family. The word resonates deeply, grounding me in a way I haven't felt in years. Despite the chaos surrounding us, despite the mistakes and betrayals, I realize I'm not alone. Not really. As Harry squeezes my hand one last time, I allow myself to believe, for the first time in a long time, that maybe, just maybe, there's hope for a better future. Everything else aside, Evie was about to attack a member of Chloe's pack. Harry growls, his voice low and dangerous. "Chloe did what she could in an impossible situation. You, however, attacked a defenseless human girl." His words hang heavy in the air. He had attacked Emma while she was still human. He had tried to kill Harry, and he had killed Damon, though perhaps not of his volition, as Cromwell was likely behind that as well. I remember him asking me all about Nate, knowing full well the possessiveness Nate often displayed. He knew it would seem believable that Nate had attacked Damon out of jealousy. Maybe this isn't entirely Nate's fault, but it doesn't matter. I'm through being guilted into loving him. This isn't what love is supposed to be. Love should be given freely, without expectations or conditions. Chloe, Harry begins gravely, is it true you were going to be that vampire's bride? A part of me, the small, fearful part, wants to lie, to shield myself from his judgment, but that part is minuscule compared to the pride I feel for having known Damon, for having been loved by him. Who wouldn't feel lucky to have experienced such a connection? Yes, I reply firmly, watching as Harry's frown deepens. Despite the accords, he sighs, was it because you were hoping to get away from him? He points toward Nate. I shake my head. It might have started that way. I won't deny that I initially hoped to escape Nate's grasp, but that wasn't why I wanted to be with Damon. No, Harry. I agreed to be his bride because I loved him. My voice cracks under the weight of truth, and I crumble as my own words catch up to me. Loved him. I correct myself silently, shutting my eyes against the despair threatening to consume me. How could you? Nate snaps, his tone laced with betrayal. You're my mate. I don't belong to you, I shout back, my anger boiling over. And you don't own my heart. It belongs to Damon. I chose to give it to him. Nate snarls but says nothing more, as Harry silences him with a glare. I am very sorry for your loss, Harry whispers, his expression devoid of judgment. I nod, my throat too tight to respond. We don't have much time, Harry urges, steering us back to the pressing matter at hand. I've come to tell you, Ian Cromwell wants both your heads. With how public Nate's attack was, I wince at the reminder, but let Harry continue. I don't see how we'll be able to object to public retribution. I nod, having already anticipated this outcome. For a moment, I consider confiding in Harry, telling him that Cromwell was behind Damon's death, but I quickly dismiss the thought. What good would it do? If anything, it would only put Harry in danger. Knowing something like that could make him a target. Vivian and Jake will be back later tonight to get you out, Harry says abruptly. My eyes snap open in disbelief. What? Nate committed the crime. Let the vampires satisfy themselves with his death. I'm not running away, I declare, my voice rising with defiance. And what if they request that you pay for my crimes instead? Harry counters, his smile grim and resigned. You can't choose me over Emma, I argue, my voice trembling. You know you can't. Harry shuts his eyes, shame flickering across his features. I'm responsible for you, he protests weakly, though I can see the conflict in his eyes. You can't sacrifice yourself for me, I insist. If anything were to happen to you, it would destroy Emma, and you know it. Harry flinches slightly, unable to deny the truth in my words. He knows as well as I do that Emma depends on him, trusts him completely. Losing him would devastate her. Still, his sense of duty battles fiercely within him. Besides, I add, softening my tone, I want to stay. I need to face this. Running won't solve anything. Harry exhales sharply, torn between his responsibilities as alpha and his personal feelings. This isn't just about you, Chloe. It's about protecting the pack. If Cromwell demands blood, I won't let yours be spilled for something you didn't do. But it is partly my fault, I counter, guilt clawing at my insides. If I hadn't been so reckless, so impulsive, maybe none of this would have happened. Maybe Damon would still be alive. Harry steps closer, his gaze unwavering. Stop blaming yourself. None of us could have predicted any of this. You're not alone in this fight, Chloe. We'll figure it out. together. Together, the word feels foreign yet comforting. Despite everything, despite the guilt and grief weighing me down, there's a glimmer of hope in Harry's promise. Maybe I don't have to face this alone after all. Justice for Damian, I explain, clenching my fists. I'll have no chance of obtaining it by running away. Harry looks so conflicted. I'd probably feel sorry for him if all my energy wasn't being spent on staying strong to reach my goal. Revenge. Revenge against the traitorous bastard who used me to kill the man I loved. He must pay for his crimes. Chloe, Harry cautions, his mouth pursed in a grim line. Once you're declared guilty, we won't be able to get you out. I send a mental apology to Emma, who's going to have a hard time making him feel better about this one. But if that's the way it has to be, then so be it. I'll tell you what you told me once, I reply, mimicking his previous words. The sharp clang of chains echoes off the stone walls as Nate and I are escorted from our cold, dank cells to face what can only be a mockery of justice. The question lingers, why even bother with a trial? Ian Cromwell could very well use his compulsion powers to make everyone agree that my maid and I deserve to die. Is there any point in pretending we stand a chance? I'm tired of pretending already. The guards lead us through narrow, shadowed corridors that spill into a vast Gothic church set outside the city. Its towering spires are silhouetted against a steel-gray sky, promising rain, or perhaps forewarning tears from heaven. As we step inside, the construction looms over us, its vaulted ceilings arching high above, cloaked in shadows that seem to seep into my soul. The air is heavy, musty with the scent of old incense, colder than the cells we just left, sending a shiver down my spine. All eyes are on us. A strange assembly of vampires and werewolves fills the pews of this sanctified hall turned courtroom. They murmur among themselves, their voices a dissonant blend of outrage, curiosity, and fear. Stained glass windows fragment the dim light, casting colorful, eerie patterns on the stone floor. At the front, where the altar once stood, Ian Cromwell stands with a gavel in hand. His presence, they murmur among themselves, their voices a dissonant blend of outrage, curiosity, and fear. Stained glass windows fragment the dim light, casting colorful, eerie patterns on the stone floor. At the front, where the altar once stood, Ian Cromwell stands with a gavel in hand. His presence dominates the room. His cold, calculating eyes sweep over the crowd before settling on me with chilling finality, so unlike the warm, enthusiastic looks he used to give me. I trusted him. I grew fond of him. Damian did too. Damian, who I must stay strong for. Without him, his sister Rose will likely be in danger, especially since their grandfather isn't the supportive ally he made himself out to be. All Damian ever wanted was to protect her. I have to get out of this so I can make sure she's okay. I owe that to him at least. But things aren't looking promising. I spot Harry, Vivian, Jake, and, to my surprise, Emma among the crowd. My breath catches as I meet my best friend's blue gaze. She waves at me, jumping to her feet and making her way toward me, while I gape at her like a fish out of water. What is she doing here? I can't believe Harry let her come anywhere near so many vampires, most of whom are likely hostile because of the attack on Damian. His protective instincts always kept her away from danger before. As Emma approaches, her expression is a mix of determination and fear. She reaches out, grasping my hand through the bars of the prisoner's dock. "You don't get to give up," she whispers fiercely. "We're getting you out of this." Her words ignite something inside me, a flicker of hope amidst the despair. But hope feels dangerous now. It's easier to prepare for failure than cling to an illusion of victory. Still, seeing her here reminds me of everything worth fighting for: friendship, loyalty, and the people who depend on me. Ian raises his gavel, calling the makeshift court to order. The murmurs die down, replaced by an oppressive silence. He begins speaking, his voice echoing through the cavernous space. Today, we gather to determine the fate of Chloe and Nathaniel, accused of conspiring against our kind and committing acts of treachery that led to the death of Damian Cromwell. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Some faces contort in anger, others wear masks of disbelief. Beside me, Nate stiffens but says nothing. His silence is deafening, almost unbearable. For weeks, I've felt his emotions bleeding into mine, a constant reminder of the bond tying us together despite everything. Now, though, he seems distant, withdrawn. Perhaps he knows, as I do, that there's no escaping this verdict. Harry stands, addressing the court. "There are extenuating circumstances here," he argues, his voice steady but tinged with desperation. "Chloe was manipulated. She didn't act of her own free will." Ian smirks, dismissing Harry's plea with a wave of his hand. Manipulated or not, the result remains the same. Damian is dead, and these two are responsible. "No," Emma shouts, drawing startled looks from the crowd. "That's not true. You can't just decide someone's fate without hearing them out." Ian turns his icy glare on her. "Silence, girl. You have no place here." But Emma doesn't back down. She steps forward, defiance blazing in her eyes. "She's my friend, and I know she wouldn't hurt anyone unless she had no other choice. If you want justice, hear her side." For a moment, Ian hesitates. Then, with visible reluctance, he gestures for me to speak. Taking a deep breath, I begin. "Yes, I killed Damian," I admit, ignoring the gasps that follow. "But not willingly. I was under compulsion, forced to obey orders I didn't understand. Everything I did to protect those I care about. Damian, he didn't deserve to die, and neither does Rose. If you punish me, fine, but don't take your anger out on her. She's innocent." My voice breaks at the end, and I force myself to meet Ian's gaze. For a fleeting second, I think I see a flicker of doubt cross his face, but it vanishes quickly, replaced by his usual cold resolve. When he speaks again, his tone leaves no room for negotiation. The sentence is clear. Both Chloe and Nathaniel will face execution for their crimes. Panic surges within me, but I bite it back. This isn't over. Not yet. As long as I draw breath, I'll fight for Damian's memory, for Rose's safety, and for the truth. Whatever it takes, I'll find a way to survive. Wanted, a convenient tragedy to further his own agenda. The audacity of his words makes my stomach churn, but I force myself to stand tall, refusing to let him see the cracks in my resolve. My hands clench into fists at my sides as Cromwell's voice drones on, painting me as some kind of monster who preyed on Damian's kindness. The truth is so far from that it almost feels like a joke, but no one here seems inclined to laugh. Emma's earlier interruption lingers in my mind, her cryptic words and strange behavior gnawing at the edges of my thoughts. What was she trying to do? Distract them? Signal something? Her ring cutting into my skin wasn't an accident. I know Emma well enough to recognize when she's up to something, but I can't decipher her play yet. All I know is that I'm grateful she's here, even if her presence raises more questions than answers. She's always been the steady one, the voice of reason when everything else feels chaotic. Seeing her now, risking herself for me, gives me a flicker of hope amidst the suffocating despair. The vampire guard shifts uncomfortably beside me, their cold eyes scanning the room with an intensity that makes my skin crawl. They're not just watching me, they're watching everyone, waiting for any sign of rebellion or resistance. It's clear they don't trust this gathering any more than I do. But there's something else in their demeanor, a tension, a hesitance that tells me they might not be entirely aligned with Cromwell either. Or maybe I'm clutching at straws, desperate for anything to hold on to. Cromwell's speech drags on, each word dripping with venomous intent. He talks about Damian as though he were a saint, conveniently ignoring the complexities of who he really was. Damian wasn't perfect. He had his flaws, his secrets, but he didn't deserve this. No one does. And yet, here we are, standing in this cold, hollow space where justice has already been decided before the first piece of evidence is even presented. I glance toward Harry, still seated calmly among the crowd, his expression unreadable. His lack of intervention unsettles me. Normally, he'd have stepped in by now, asserted his authority, protected his pack. But today, he's silent, almost detached. Is he playing a long game, biding his time? Or has he truly abandoned me? The thought sends a fresh wave of panic coursing through me, but I push it down. I can't afford to spiral right now, not here, not in front of them. As Cromwell wraps up his opening statement, the weight of the room presses down on me, heavier than ever. This isn't just a trial, it's a spectacle, a performance designed to humiliate and destroy me. But I won't let them win. For Damian, for my pack, for myself, I'll fight until my last breath, even if it means exposing parts of myself I've worked so hard to keep hidden. The first witness is called to the stand, and I brace myself for what's coming next. Whoever they are, they'll likely be another pawn in Cromwell's game, another tool used to chip away at whatever credibility I might have left. Still, I meet their gaze head-on, refusing to look away. Let them see me, let them hear me, because despite everything, I'm still standing, and I'm not going anywhere without a fight. Emma's earlier actions replay in my mind again, her sharp smile and pointed comments about tampons feeling less random now. Was she trying to buy me time? Throw off the vampires with absurdity? Knowing her, it's entirely possible. She's always had a knack for finding unconventional ways to protect those she cares about. If anyone could find a way to turn this situation on its head, it's her. I just hope she knows what she's doing. The witness begins recounting their version of events, their words carefully rehearsed and painfully predictable. Lies layered upon lies, all crafted to paint me as the villain in this twisted narrative. It's infuriating, but I force myself to stay calm, to listen without reacting. Every word they say chips away at my composure, but I remind myself that anger won't help me here. Clarity will, patience will, finding the cracks in their story will. And then, suddenly, a shift, a small stumble in the witness's testimony, barely noticeable unless you're paying close attention. Their eyes dart briefly to Cromwell before continuing, confirming what I already suspected. They're lying, not just embellishing or omitting details, but outright fabricating. It's a tiny victory, but it's enough to reignite the spark inside me. If I can catch one lie, I can catch more. If I can expose one weakness, I can expose others. Cromwell blares at the witness, clearly displeased with the misstep, but recovers quickly, redirecting the focus back to me. "Tell us," he says, his tone dripping with false sympathy. "How did you manage to deceive someone as noble and trusting as my grandson?" The question hangs in the air, heavy with accusation. Deceive? As if I somehow orchestrated this entire tragedy for personal gain. The absurdity of it almost makes me laugh, but I bite my tongue. Now isn't the time. Instead, I take a deep breath, centering myself. When I finally speak, my voice is steady, stronger than I expected. "I didn't deceive him," I say, meeting Cromwell's gaze directly. "Damian knew exactly who I was. He chose me, not because I manipulated him, but because he believed in me, in us." The words feel raw, vulnerable, but also true. Damian saw something in me that others often overlooked. He believed in a future where love could transcend boundaries, where trust could overcome fear. That belief cost him everything, and I owe it to him to honor it now. The room falls silent, the weight of my declaration hanging heavily in the air. For a moment, it feels like the tide might be shifting, like maybe, just maybe, they'll listen. But then Cromwell smirks, leaning back in his chair as though my words mean nothing. "How touching," he says, his tone mocking. "But sentiment won't change the facts, facts that prove your guilt beyond a shadow of a doubt." His confidence rattles me, but only for a second. I faced worse than him. Nate's manipulation, the pack's judgment, my own self-doubt, all of it has prepared me for this moment. I may be outnumbered, outmaneuvered, but I'm not defeated. Not yet. And as long as I have even the smallest chance to fight for the truth, I'll take it. I hate him. I've never hated someone so strongly in my entire life. Chloe couldn't have known her blood would affect Damian in any way. Harry objects, remarkably calm. The Accords clearly state we aren't allowed to tell other wolves about that. Cromwell's eyes briefly flash with annoyance before he schools his features into a more neutral and benevolent expression. "Forgive me, Dr. Sachs, but how do we know you haven't shared the information with her?" he replies, deceptively polite. "I want to strangle him." "What is it you're implying here?" Harry responds, his tone sharp. "That I've betrayed the Accords and purposely sent someone from my pack to harm your grandson?" Cromwell's implications, brought to light probably too soon, sound implausible at this point in the trial. Forced to back down, Cromwell inclines his head in a gesture of appeasement. "Of course not. I have no doubt both our species are very much intent on keeping the peace between us." Harry smiles tightly. "Good, but just in case there's still some doubt, I'm happy for you to use your powers on me, so I'm forced to tell the truth. I have nothing to hide." Beside him, Emma visibly tenses, clearly uneasy about the idea. "That won't be necessary," Cromwell says smoothly. "We can trust each other without such drastic measures being put in place, can't we?" He sounds so convincing, like he genuinely wants to keep the peace. I can't make sense of his actions. Cromwell is known as the vampire, thanks to whom the Accords were signed, but I'm left to wonder what his intentions were in setting up this truce in the first place. I now highly doubt he did it out of the kindness of his heart. I know for a fact there's no humanity left behind his composed, eccentric, fatherly facade. So why did he set up the Accords? Why trick his own grandson, probably his own daughter, into falling right into his trap? Why kill Damian? And why use me and Nate in the process? I can't make sense of it. Is he hoping to start a war? He seems careful in how he deals with Harry, not eager to start a conflict with him. My mind is going in circles. Nothing makes sense anymore. Despite it all, as Cromwell lays out the accusations, each word more absurd than the last, I steel myself. I may not care for my own fate, but for Damian, for what we had and what Cromwell has taken away, I will fight this trial. This farce will not go the way Cromwell intends. I resolve to unearth his deceit, to expose him for all to see, no matter the cost. Chloe, he says, indicating for me to stand, we will now hear your deposition. I resist the urge to roll my eyes as I rise to face the room. How did you meet my grandson? Cromwell asks from behind me, making me tense. You introduced us, I reply truthfully. You hired me to be his bodyguard. I did no such thing, Cromwell scoffs, crossing his arms. But you can't deny that there have been attempts made on Damian's life before I started working for you, I argue, my gaze drifting toward Alexander Cromwell. He'd been poisoned before, right? Damian's mother frowns. The room grows heavy with tension as the weight of my words sinks in. Cromwell's polished demeanor slips for just a moment, a flicker of irritation crossing his face before he masks it again. Attempts on his life? He echoes, his voice dripping with disdain. Preposterous. If there were any such incidents, they were isolated and unrelated to anyone present here today. Isolated? I snap, unable to contain my frustration. Damian nearly died, twice, once from poisoning and once from an ambush. Are you really going to sit there and act like those events didn't happen? My voice rises, despite my efforts to stay calm. I feel the eyes of everyone in the room on me, judging, scrutinizing, but I don't care, not when it comes to this. Harry shifts slightly beside me, his presence grounding me. Let's not lose sight of the facts, he interjects, his tone measured but firm. There's no evidence linking these incidents to Chloe or anyone in my pack. What we're discussing here is baseless speculation at best. Cromwell narrows his eyes, his composure cracking further. Baseless? How convenient for you to dismiss the safety of my family so casually. Perhaps you forget that the accords exist to prevent exactly this kind of chaos. The accords exist to maintain peace, Harry counters, his voice cutting through the room like a blade, not to serve as a weapon for personal vendettas. Emma places a hand on Harry's arm, her touch subtle but deliberate, a silent plea for restraint. The tension between them is palpable, but they hold their ground. Cromwell, sensing the shift in dynamics, leans back in his seat, his lips curling into a faint smirk. Very well, he says, his tone laced with false magnanimity. Let's move on, shall we? Chloe, tell us about your relationship with Damian. My stomach churns at the question. Relationship? What relationship? He's dead because of me, because of all of this. I swallow hard, forcing myself to meet Cromwell's piercing gaze. I was assigned to protect him, I say, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. That's all? All? Cromwell repeats, raising an eyebrow. No friendship? No deeper connection? His insinuation hits me like a punch to the gut. No, I reply sharply. I was there to do a job, nothing more. Cromwell studies me for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then, with a slow nod, he turns his attention back to the others. Interesting, he murmurs, almost to himself. And yet, one can't help but wonder how deeply entangled you truly are in all of this. His words linger in the air, heavy with implication. I clench my fists, fighting the urge to lash out. This isn't about me. It's about Damian. It's about uncovering the truth and holding Cromwell accountable for the monster he really is. But as I stand there, surrounded by judgmental stares and veiled accusations, I can't shake the feeling that I'm losing control of the narrative, that Cromwell is spinning this trial exactly the way he wants it to go, and I hate him even more for it. It's true, she agrees reluctantly. A vampire had once attempted to kidnap Damian in the past, and not long after that, he was poisoned. Cromwell, standing steadfast by her side, clenches his fists tightly. "Yes, thank you, Alexandra," he says, as intrigued murmurs ripple through the crowd. "But that doesn't change the fact that I didn't know Damian at the time," I counter firmly, briefly meeting Emma's gaze for support. "So there was no reason for Nate to be behind these attempts." "It doesn't change the fact that everyone saw him bite Damian 2 days ago," Cromwell replies curtly. My heart pounds fiercely against my ribcage as I snap back. "All I'm saying is that people were already after him, and you hired me to protect him." "I did no such thing," Cromwell insists calmly. "I thought you were going to be his bride." His words hang heavy in the air, and a wave of tension sweeps over the room. "And so did everyone here," he continues mercilessly. "Since my grandson died the night your blood bond ceremony was to take place." He pauses, letting the weight of his accusations sink in. I flinch, my hands trembling. Surely, if I'd only been there for Damian's protection, I wouldn't have agreed to go through such a binding commitment. "A blood bond is for life, after all," Cromwell drones on, unyielding. "Why would you agree to it if Damian was just a job for you?" "I loved him," I gasp, betrayal and pain shaking my words. "You know I did. We came to you together." "You loved him, yet you never told him you were a werewolf," Cromwell retorts sharply. "You lied to him because I made you lie. I used my powers on you." His eyes lock onto mine, momentarily widening in surprise. Clearly, he hadn't expected me to reveal how he manipulated me with compulsion. Did he think I wouldn't speak up because he assumed his compulsion would still hold sway? He looks genuinely stunned now, which makes me wonder, why isn't his compulsion still working? Why have I been remembering all the times he forced his will upon me when I couldn't before? Something fierce and determined ignites within me as Cromwell's expression grows darker, more dangerous. "Enough of this," he snaps abruptly, waving at Nate to step forward. "He is your mate, is he not? And everyone saw him kill Damian. Do you deny that you bit him?" he demands, directing his question toward Nate. Nate moves to stand beside me, his posture resigned yet defiant. He avoids my gaze, lost in his own turmoil, or perhaps already defeated by the weight of his manipulated actions. My contempt for Cromwell burns hotter, a fiery blaze in the cold void of my heart. "Do you deny it?" Cromwell repeats impatiently. "No," Nate murmurs, his head sagging in defeat. "I bit him." "Why?" Cromwell presses. Nate's eyes glaze over, vacant, and I realize he's being compelled again, forced to say something rehearsed, scripted, and likely untrue. "I've been rejected from my pack," he begins haltingly, "which has put a strain on Chloe and my relationship. I thought if I could convince you, Cromwell, to stop the increase of vampire attacks, it would get me back on my alpha's good side and back into the pack." I glance at Harry briefly. His expression mirrors my skepticism. Before anyone can intervene, Cromwell seizes control of the narrative. "And you thought harming my grandson would pressure me into helping you?" Nate nods slowly, each movement deliberate but weighed down by guilt or coercion. The room erupts into gasps once more, the tension thick enough to choke on. The scene feels surreal, like watching pieces of a puzzle fall into place while knowing they don't quite fit. Every word spoken seems calculated to manipulate, every action designed to twist the truth until it bends under the weight of agendas far older than any of us. Yet beneath the surface lies a deeper struggle, a fight for identity, loyalty, and freedom from forces that seek to control us. Cromwell's gaze shifts back to me, piercing and unrelenting. "So tell me, Chloe," he says, his tone dripping with mockery, "how does it feel to discover that your mate, one bound to you by fate, is capable of such deceit? How does it feel to realize that everything you believed may have been orchestrated by those who claim to care for you?" His words sting, but they also ignite a spark of defiance within me. I won't let him break me. Not here, not now, not when so much is at stake. "It feels like betrayal," I answer steadily, my voice cutting through the chaos. "But not from Nate, from you. You've manipulated us both, twisted our lives to suit your plans. And for what? Power? Revenge? Whatever it is, it ends today." For a moment, silence blankets the room. Even Cromwell seems taken aback by my declaration. Then, slowly, a sinister smile spreads across his face. "Brave words," he says softly. "But bravery alone won't save you, or him." Before anyone can respond, the door bursts open and a figure strides in, commanding attention without uttering a single word. It's Emma, her presence radiating strength and authority. Beside her stands Harry, his jaw set with determination. Together, they form an unshakable front, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, allies remain. "What's going on here?" Emma demands, her sharp gaze sweeping over the room. Her voice cuts through the tension like a blade, forcing everyone to refocus. For the first time since this confrontation began, I feel a flicker of hope. Perhaps we aren't as alone as it seemed. Perhaps the truth still has a chance to shine through the shadows cast by manipulation and deceit. As the drama unfolds, one thing becomes clear. Trust is fragile, loyalties are tested, and the line between right and wrong blurs under the weight of circumstance. But amidst it all, the heart endures, clinging to the possibility of redemption, even when the odds seem insurmountable. "I didn't mean to kill him. It was an accident. I only wanted to scare you enough to motivate you to help us prevent another attack." Cromwell clenches his fists dramatically, feigning an emotional anger that he clearly doesn't feel. Beside him, his daughter trembles with rage, though her sincerity is questionable. She leaps to her feet, her voice cracking as she screams, pointing a finger at Nate. "How dare you?" she shouts. "We've been respecting the accords for years, and this is how you repay us?" She buries her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. I purse my lips. If this is an act, it's a convincing one. "Did Chloe know about your intentions?" Cromwell asks, his tone sharp. Nate remains unrelenting. "She did," he admits without hesitation. "But Chloe cared about Damian. Still, Chloe is my mate. Our bond will always come first, no matter what." His gaze drifts toward me, and he adds coldly, driving the knife deeper. "She forgave me for harming her best friend. She forgave me for trying to kill our alpha. And she forgives me for killing a vampire she'd grown slightly fond of, but who could never compare to me and what we have in her heart." Hearing those words, something inside me snaps. I scream in rage, lunging toward him, arms outstretched, ready to strangle him. The world around me fades into nothingness. All my focus is on Nate. I want to make him pay for what he just said, for how close to the truth it hits. The toxicity of our relationship rings raw behind his hurtful words. I'm struck by the ugliness of what lies between us, the weight of what has been eating at me for years. It's all painfully close to the truth, except for one thing. I loved him, I yell, tears blurring my vision as strong arms hold me back, preventing me from reaching Nate. I loved him more than I've ever loved you, and if I could give your life to get him back, I wouldn't hesitate for a second. My voice breaks under the weight of my emotions. Cromwell's shout cuts through the chaos like a blade. Enough. His voice reverberates through the room, silencing everyone instantly. For a moment, I wonder if he's used his powers to enforce the stillness. He confessed to his crime, Cromwell declares, his voice heavy with authority. My grandson is dead. This trial is over. I demand that the werewolves make amends by allowing Nate's execution and Chloe's lifelong imprisonment. My breath catches in my throat as Nate's gaze meets mine. I may hate the bond we share and despise everything he's done, but I've never wanted him dead. More importantly, I hadn't expected to be allowed to live. In that moment, I realize I'd been hoping for the relief death would bring. My heart feels shattered, and I'm exhausted by all of this. I have no reason left to live. Take me instead, I murmur, closing my eyes. I don't want to do this anymore. I object. Emma's voice booms across the room, jolting me back to reality. My eyes snap open. She's standing among the crowd, a determined look etched onto her features. Jake and Vivian glance at her, then at Harry, likely wondering what she's doing and whether her mate is in on it. Harry's blank expression gives nothing away. You object? Cromwell lets out a stunned laugh. To what exactly? Emma frowns at him, undeterred. To all of this, she replies, gesturing broadly around the room. Her voice grows steadier as she continues. You claim justice, but what you're demanding isn't justice, it's vengeance. You're asking for 2 lives in exchange for 1, and that goes against everything the Accords stand for. If you proceed with this, you're no better than those who break the laws you claim to uphold. Cromwell's face darkens, his composure slipping. Do not lecture me on morality, girl. My grandson is dead because of them. Their kind cannot be trusted. And yet here we are, Emma counters, her voice unwavering. Your granddaughter stands before you, torn apart by guilt and grief. Do you think punishing her further will bring Damian back, or will it simply perpetuate the cycle of hatred and violence that has plagued both our kinds for centuries? The room falls silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Cromwell glares at her, his jaw tightening. What would you suggest then, that we let them walk away unpunished? No, Emma says firmly, but there are other ways to ensure accountability without resorting to bloodshed. Banishment, perhaps, a period of service to repair the damage caused, something that allows growth rather than destruction. For a long moment, no one speaks. The tension in the air is palpable, thick enough to suffocate. Finally, Cromwell exhales sharply, his shoulders sagging slightly, as if the fight has drained him. Very well, he mutters, though his tone suggests he's far from satisfied. Let the council deliberate on this matter. But know this, if the outcome does not satisfy me, I will not hesitate to take matters into my own hands. With that, he turns and strides out of the room, his daughter trailing behind him. The rest of the crowd begins to disperse, murmurs filling the space as people whisper amongst themselves. Emma approaches me cautiously, her expression softening. "Are you okay?" she asks quietly. I shake my head, unable to find the words to answer. The storm inside me rages on, leaving me hollow and unsure of what comes next. The gravity of the situation. Emma's audacity leaves me both impressed and terrified, her words slicing through the tension like a blade. The room feels heavier with each passing second, the weight of unspoken truths pressing down on everyone present. I glance at Harry, whose silence is unnerving. Why isn't he stepping in? Does he trust Emma to handle this? Or is there something else going on that I'm missing? Cromwell's composure falters slightly as he watches his staff disappear through the side door, presumably to retrieve Damian's body. His jaw tightens, and for a moment, I wonder if he regrets allowing this confrontation to escalate so publicly. Emma stands tall, her confidence unwavering despite the glares aimed her way. She meets Cromwell's gaze without flinching, her expression daring him to challenge her further. The murmurs among the werewolves grow louder again, some voicing skepticism, while others seem genuinely convinced by Emma's argument. A few even nod in agreement, their distrust of the vampires palpable. It's clear they're desperate for proof, any scrap of evidence that will validate their suspicions or put them at ease. But what happens when they see Damian's body? Will it quell their doubts, or will it ignite an even bigger conflict? As the moments stretch into minutes, the atmosphere becomes almost unbearable. My palms are clammy, my mind racing with possibilities. What if Emma's gamble backfires? What if showing the body only deepens the divide between the two factions? And what about Harry? He hasn't said a word since this whole debacle began. His usual authoritative presence conspicuously absent. Is he biding his time, waiting for the right moment to intervene? Or has he lost control of the situation entirely? Finally, the doors creak open, and Cromwell's staff reappear, carrying a stretcher draped with a black cloth. The sight sends a shiver down my spine. They set it down carefully near the center of the room, drawing every eye in the church. For a moment, no one moves. The collective breath of the crowd seems suspended, the air thick with anticipation. "Well," Emma prompts, breaking the silence. "Let's see him." Cromwell hesitates, his eyes narrowing as he studies her face. There's a flicker of uncertainty in his expression, but he quickly masks it. With a sharp nod to his staff, they pull back the cloth, revealing Damian's lifeless form. Gasps ripple through the crowd, followed by murmurs of shock and disbelief. Even from where I stand, I can see the pale, still features of his face, the faint bruising around his neck, a grim reminder of how he met his end. Emma steps forward, her movements deliberate as she inspects the body. Her lips press into a thin line, and for the first time, I catch a glimpse of hesitation in her demeanor. Whatever she was expecting, this seems to have shaken her. Still, she doesn't falter. Leaning down, she examines the wounds more closely, her fingers brushing lightly against the marks on his throat. The room falls silent once again, all eyes fixed on her. After what feels like an eternity, she straightens up, her expression unreadable. "Huh," she says finally, her tone casual but laced with something darker beneath the surface. "Looks pretty dead to me." A ripple of unease passes through the crowd. Some of the werewolves exchange uneasy glances, their earlier certainty wavering. Others look angry, as though Emma's nonchalant attitude is somehow disrespectful. Cromwell watches her intently, his patience visibly wearing thin. So, case closed, right? Emma continues, turning to address the room at large. Your vampire prince is dead. No conspiracy, no fake-out. Just dead. She shrugs, as if the matter is settled, but the tension in the room suggests otherwise. Not so fast, Alexander snaps, stepping forward. Her voice cuts through the murmurs like a knife. Even if this is Damian's body, and let's not forget, we've only got your word on that, it doesn't explain everything. The attacks on humans didn't stop after his death. Someone out there is still violating the accords, someone who benefits from chaos. Her words hang heavily in the air, and I feel a chill run down my spine. She's right. Even with Damian's body lying in front of us, the larger issue remains unresolved. Who or what is behind the ongoing violence? And why does it feel like we're missing something crucial? Harry finally stirs, his deep voice cutting through the mounting tension. Enough, he says firmly, his gaze sweeping over the room. We're not here to play games or point fingers. If we want answers, we need to work together, not tear each other apart. For a moment, no one speaks. The weight of his words settles over the crowd, forcing everyone to confront the reality of the situation. As much as tensions run high, Harry's authority commands respect, even from those who might disagree with him. Slowly, the murmurs die down, replaced by a reluctant acknowledgement of his point. But Emma isn't done yet. Working together sounds great and all, she says, crossing her arms, but forgive me if I don't trust a bunch of vampires who've spent centuries treating us like second-class citizens. You'll have to do better than let's hold hands and sing Kumbaya to convince me you're actually interested in peace. Her bluntness earns her another round of glares, but also a few grudging nods of agreement. It's clear she's speaking for more than just herself. She's voicing the frustrations of an entire faction that's grown tired of being dismissed and underestimated. Cromwell exhales sharply, clearly frustrated by the turn of events. Fine, he says, his voice clipped. What do you propose then? How do we move forward? Emma smirks, seemingly pleased to have pushed him into a corner. Glad you asked, she replies, her tone dripping with sarcasm. First, we get to the bottom of these so-called attacks. Second, we figure out who's really pulling the strings here. And third, she pauses, her smirk fading into something colder, more calculating. We make sure whoever's responsible pays for it. The room erupts into chaos once again, voices overlapping as arguments break out. Some support Emma's plan, while others dismiss it as reckless and unnecessary. Through it all, I find myself torn. On one hand, her determination is admirable, her refusal to back down in the face of adversity inspiring. On the other hand, I can't shake the feeling that she's playing with fire, pushing boundaries that shouldn't be tested. And then there's Nate. The thought of him sends a pang of guilt through me, reminding me of the bond I've been trying so hard to ignore. I know he'd disapprove of this, of Emma's recklessness, of my involvement. But isn't that exactly why I need to stay? To prove that I can make decisions for myself, regardless of what anyone else thinks? As the debate rages on, I realize something important. This isn't just about Damian's death or the attacks on humans. It's about trust, loyalty, and the fragile alliances holding our world together. And whether we like it or not, the choices we make in this moment will shape the future, for better or worse. The heavy doors at the rear of the church creak open, and two of Cromwell's people enter solemnly. Between them, they carry an open coffin, their faces etched with gravity. I can barely bring myself to look at it. They set it down gently at the foot of the altar, amidst waves of shocked gasps. Damon lies there, his features serene, almost as if he is merely asleep. His pale skin contrasts starkly with the rich, dark velvet lining of the coffin. His black hair, always so carelessly perfect, fans out around his head like a dark halo, catching the dim light and casting shadows that play off his peaceful expression. The sight shatters what little courage and hope my heart still clung to, reducing it to numb nothingness. He looks untouched by death, beautiful and still, as though at any moment he might draw a breath and sit up, flashing his charming, mischievous smile at me again. But the stillness of his body is a silent scream in the quiet church, tearing through me with unbearable ferocity. Around me, I hear soft sounds of pity and whispered sorrow from the crowd, their earlier animosity forgotten in the face of such poignant finality. Yet the tears welling up in my eyes are born of a pain far deeper than their fleeting sympathies could ever comprehend. "Damian," I choke out, feeling faint. I take a step forward, instinctively yearning to touch him, as if contact could somehow fill the lifeless void he has left behind. Satisfied, Cromwell asks Emma with an impatient grimace, "May I check the body from up close?" She replies, batting her eyelashes innocently, "No offense, but he's a vampire. If you guys lay down and close your eyes, you all look like corpses from a certain distance." Offended protests ripple through the vampire section of the church, but Cromwell simply sighs in resignation, waving my friend over to the front. "Fine," he says, "proceed." Emma practically skips over, her steps light and bouncy, as though she were going shopping. "Wow," she exclaims, her eyes widening slightly as she bends down over Damian's coffin for a closer look. "That is one attractive-looking man. Good on you, Chloe," she adds, giving me a wink. "Are you quite done?" Cromwell snaps impatiently. "Of course not," Emma retorts, rolling her eyes. "I haven't even tickled him yet." She turns to address the crowd. "You can always tell if someone's faking sleep by tickling them. True story." "Are you mocking our pain?" Alexandra exclaims, fury lacing her words. "How dare you come here?" "Oh my God!" Emma shrieks in mock horror, jumping up and pointing toward the back of the church. "What is that?" While everyone instinctively turns to look in the direction she points, Emma reveals a small vial hidden beneath her sleeve and promptly shoves its contents between Damian's parted lips. "What did you just give him?" Cromwell screeches, taking a menacing step toward her. Emma smirks. "If I know anything, we'll find out any second." She glances back down at Damian, and I follow her gaze, my eyes settling on his peaceful face. However, he begins to stir. The peace doesn't last long, for soon his eyes snap open and he gasps, sitting up abruptly. His shoulder sags in relief as he sees Emma beside him. I drop to my knees, my head spinning from the shock, the fear, the hope, the pain. His blue eyes quickly scan the room before settling on me, and a slow, loving smile spreads across Damian's lips, stealing the breath right out of my lungs. "Chloe," he whispers, sounding so heartbreakingly relieved, as if I were the one who had just come back from the dead. Cries of astonishment erupt around the church, and even Cromwell is left stunned, staring at his very alive grandson in speechless disbelief. "Oh, look," Emma comments in a bored tone. "He's alive." Wow, who would have thought? Damian's gaze reluctantly moves away from me to settle on my friend, and I instantly miss it, as though in my mind he can't truly be alive unless he's looking directly at me to prove it wrong. "Thank you, Emma," Damian tells her with a small incline of his head. "You did good." "Oh, it was nothing," she replies, sarcasm lacing her words. Then, without warning, she swings her arm back and socks my newly resuscitated lover right in the jaw. Hours earlier, Emma tosses and turns, shifting restlessly from one side of the bed to the other for what feels like the 100th time in minutes. She tries to will her body to relax, but every muscle feels taut with pent-up energy. Checking her phone again, she frowns upon finding no new messages. It's past 1 a.m., and she can't believe she's stuck at home while Harry is out, God knows where, with Jake and Vivian doing God knows what. He hadn't even told her their plans, keeping things purposefully vague, speaking to her in that firm tone that never fails to make her want to smack him. Who does he think she is, a child? She throws a pillow across the room, huffing in frustration. Sure, she may have only recently turned into a werewolf, unlike literally everyone else they know, but that doesn't mean she's some helpless kid. A wave of kind reassurance surges through their bond, an effort from Harry to calm her, but she's too upset to appreciate it. Instead, she concentrates on slamming their mental connection shut for the time being. He absolutely hates it when she does this, and she hopes it makes him as miserable as she feels. If only Chloe were around to distract her, but she's checked her room several times, and Chloe is nowhere to be found. Emma realizes she hasn't seen much of her best friend these past weeks, or rather, these past few months. Ever since Harry and Emma bonded, her friendship with Chloe has taken a back seat. This bond is turning her into a terrible friend on top of a controlling, paranoid girlfriend. Bonds suck. Another hour drags by, and sleep still eludes her. Finally, she hears the familiar sound of a car pulling up near the house. Even from her room, she can hear Harry's voice downstairs as he enters with Jake and Vivian. Opening the bond with Harry again, she's immediately hit with a wave of emotions. His exhaustion, his tension, and something else she can't quite place. She groans, knowing whatever happened tonight isn't going to make her feel any better about being left behind. Back in the present, Damian rubs his jaw, wincing slightly, but still managing a smirk. "I guess I deserve that," he says, glancing at Emma. "You definitely did," she retorts, crossing her arms over her chest. Despite her sharp tone, there's a flicker of relief in her eyes. The room buzzes with murmurs of disbelief and joy, but for Chloe, everything fades into the background except Damian. Her heart pounds unevenly as she watches him, half convinced she's dreaming. "Are you okay?" she asks finally, her voice trembling. Damian nods, his expression softening as he looks at her. "I'm here," he says simply, as though those two words hold all the answers. And maybe, for now, they do. But the questions linger unspoken between them. How? Why? What happens next? For now, though, none of that matters. All that exists is the moment, the miracle of his return, and the fragile hope that perhaps, just perhaps, things might work out after all. As the chaos around them begins to settle, Chloe realizes she's gripping Damian's hand so tightly her knuckles have turned white. Slowly, she loosens her grip, afraid that if she lets go entirely, he'll vanish again. But Damian doesn't pull away. Instead, he intertwines their fingers, grounding her in the reality of his presence. Emma rolls her eyes dramatically, but steps back, giving them space. "Well, now that we've established that Damian is, in fact, not dead, can we please focus on figuring out how this happened?" she demands, her tone brisk, but her hands betraying her anxiety as she fidgets with the hem of her shirt. Cromwell clears his throat, drawing everyone's attention. His usual stern demeanor seems shaken, replaced by something softer, almost vulnerable. "This changes things," he admits gruffly. "We need to understand what brought him back and why." No one argues. The weight of the situation presses down on them all, heavy and undeniable. Whatever force or power brought Damian back from the brink isn't done playing its hand, and they all know it. For Chloe, the realization hits hard. The battle ahead won't be easy, and the cost may be higher than any of them are prepared to pay. Yet, as she looks at Damian, she finds herself willing to face whatever comes next. Because sometimes love isn't about making the safe choice. It's about fighting for what you can't bear to lose. The overwhelming distress and anger in the air hit me as I bolted out of bed, rushing down the stairs. My heart raced with dread. "What happened?" I asked, fearing the worst. Harry's eyes found mine, his shoulders sagging briefly before he straightened. Beside him, Jake opened his mouth to speak, his expression grave, but Harry silenced him with a sharp look and stepped forward. When he was close enough to touch, I hesitated, torn between the urge to bury myself in his arms and the lingering resentment of being left behind yet again. "I need to speak to you alone," Harry said, his voice heavy with resignation. He led me back to our bedroom, closing the door softly behind us. "Where were you tonight?" I demanded, crossing my arms defensively. Harry looked exasperated, an emotion I was all too familiar with, but then his features shifted into something unsettlingly vacant. His warm gaze was replaced by one so detached it felt foreign. It was as though he were looking at a stranger. The sight of it made my chest tighten. "Harry?" I ventured cautiously, tugging at our bond. But his side was eerily calm, almost serene, like when he slept. "Hello, Emma," he said in a tone devoid of emotion. "Yes, hi. Can we get on with this? You don't remember meeting me?" I snapped, frustration bubbling over. "My name is Damon Cromwell," he continued, ignoring my sarcasm. I stumbled back, shock rippling through me. Was he joking? "You must be wondering what's happening," Harry, or whoever this was, went on in that same strange, absent tone. "Please don't be alarmed." Cautiously, I waved a hand in front of his eyes, which remained fixed ahead, empty of recognition. My heart hammered against my ribs. "Harry, please." I shook his shoulders. "What's going on? Tell me." "Don't worry about your mate," he replied calmly. "I'm sorry I had to use him to pass this message on to you, but there was no other way. Rest assured, he's perfectly fine." "Let him go," I snapped, gripping his face in my hands, desperate for him to look at me with the love I'd grown accustomed to. The absence of it stung like a betrayal. "Emma, you must listen to me now," the imposter commanded. "What did you say your name was?" I asked, trying to process everything. "Damon Cromwell." The name rang a faint bell, though I couldn't place it immediately. "Chloe is in danger, and if we're going to save her, I'm going to need your help." I recoiled as if burned. I couldn't bear touching Harry, or whoever this was, when he wasn't himself. And what did he mean about Chloe? 6 hours ago, Chloe's mate Nate attacked us during our blood bond ceremony, he explained. It was too much information at once, leaving me blinking stupidly. "Chloe isn't mated to Nate anymore," I protested weakly. "In case you're wondering, Damian," I started, only to trail off, overwhelmed. Something about the name lingered in my mind, stirring memories I couldn't quite grasp. The weight of the situation pressed down on me. This wasn't just about Harry being compromised. It was bigger than that. Chloe's safety hung in the balance, and somehow I was key to resolving it. But how could I trust anything coming from someone wearing my mate's face? Tell me more, I demanded, forcing myself to focus despite the turmoil inside. If Chloe really was in danger, I couldn't afford to let personal feelings cloud my judgment. Not now. Damon, or whoever controlled Harry's body, nodded solemnly. Nate has been manipulating events behind the scenes for months. He orchestrated the attack during the ceremony to destabilize the pack. Chloe is caught in the crossfire, and time is running out. My mind raced. Nate had always been volatile, but this level of premeditation seemed beyond him. Or perhaps I'd underestimated him all along. Either way, Chloe's life depended on me acting swiftly. "What do you need from me?" I asked, steeling myself. "There's a ritual, an ancient one, that can sever Nate's hold over her. But it requires precision and trust. You'll need to guide her through it while I maintain control here," he explained, gesturing vaguely toward Harry's unresponsive form. "And after, what happens to Harry?" I pressed, unwilling to leave any detail unexamined. "He'll return to himself once I've completed my task. Until then, you have my word he won't come to harm." His assurance offered little comfort, but I didn't have the luxury of doubt. Chloe needed me, and Harry would expect nothing less than for me to step up. "Fine," I said finally, squaring my shoulders. "But if anything happens to either of them, I swear I'll make sure you regret it." Damon inclined his head slightly, seemingly unfazed by my threat. "Understood." "Understood. Now we must act quickly." With that, he began outlining the steps I needed to take. Each instruction added another layer of complexity to an already precarious situation. Yet, beneath the fear and uncertainty, a flicker of determination took root. I wouldn't let Nate win, not this time. As I prepared to leave, I glanced back at Harry one last time. His vacant expression haunted me, but I forced myself to turn away. For better or worse, the path ahead was clear. Whatever came next, I'd face it head on. For Chloe, for Harry, and for the pack that relied on us both. It continues. Like he cannot hear me. Chloe is still bonded to Nate. She's been hiding it from you and everyone else because she's ashamed and scared of how you'll react. That does sound like Chloe, I tell myself with a wince. About 2 months ago, she started working for my grandfather, the vampire king Ian Cromwell. He hired her to be my bodyguard in secret, and nobody knew that's what she was, apart from him, me, and Chloe, who had to pose as my bride during her mission. But the truth is that this job he hired her for was all a pretext for my grandfather to get rid of me for good. He wants me dead. And if you're hearing this message, then I guess it means he's gotten his wish. Wait. I protest, frowning as I try to take all of this in. Are you saying you're dead? I'm about to tell you something no one can know until the right moment, Damian says, and it's going to be crucial that you do everything in your power to get to that right moment. Emma, Chloe's life depends on it. So does mine, though you might not care much about that. I scoff. He's not wrong, but if Chloe needs me, then I better listen carefully to what this guy is going to say, just in case this isn't a bad joke. Right now, everyone, and I do mean everyone, including Chloe, your pack, and my grandfather, believe me to be dead. But I'm very much alive, or I will be once you do what I say. I hope you will, because there's a very good chance Chloe will be executed as punishment if you don't. Right, I wince. No pressure. You must go to this address. Harry takes out his phone to type in the set address and sends it to my number. Inside the left bathroom stall, behind a loose brick, you'll find a small potion bottle. My sister Rose left it for you earlier today. Retrieve it and keep it hidden. Then, on the day of Chloe's trial, you'll need to retrieve some of her blood. A drop will suffice. Put it inside the bottle. You'll then use it to wake me up. It'll only work if you've added a drop of Chloe's blood to the potion. Don't forget, and don't tell anyone. The less people know about this, the better. My grandfather has the power to make you tell him information if he wishes. If you think me taking control of your mate like this is scary, believe me, he can do much worse. I shake my head in disbelief. All of this sounds perfectly insane, but most importantly, I won't be able to leave the house without telling Harry. I argue, and you can bet he's never going to let me come to a trial full of vampires, not without me telling him the truth at the very least, which will be nearly impossible for me to hide from him anyway. As my message is reaching its end, Damian says, I'm counting on you, Emma. Oh, and one last thing. From what Chloe tells me, your mate is quite protective of you, so I've compelled him to comply with all of your requests until the end of the trial. In fact, after this message is over, he'll be going to sleep, so you may go and retrieve the potion immediately. Good luck. And if anything goes awry, your priority, of course, is to protect Chloe from my grandfather. Leave. The voice fades, leaving me alone with my racing thoughts. This is madness, utter madness, but I can't ignore the plea in Damian's voice or the stakes tied to Chloe's fate. She's always been loyal, even when torn between her bond with Nate and her duty to the pack. Now it seems she's paying the price for secrets she kept out of fear and shame. I glance at Harry, already feeling the weight of deception settling over me. Compelled or not, lying to him feels wrong. Yet, if Damian's plan works, it could save both him and Chloe. Without another word, I steel myself and prepare to act. Whatever happens next, I'll have to navigate carefully. One misstep could cost lives, or worse, betray the fragile trust holding us together. Leave me behind if that means keeping her safe. However, please, if my sister reaches out to you for help, consider granting it to her. I'm sure Chloe will support this demand. I hope to meet you in person soon, Emma. On these last words, before I can ask anything more, Harry blinks back to awareness. I'm so relieved to see him smiling warmly that I briefly forget about the impending nightmare I was in a second ago. I bury my nose into his chest. Harry, I was so worried, I sigh as his arms tighten around me. I breathe him in. His scent makes me feel ladded. His fingers slowly running through my hair make me feel safe again, and I'm left wondering if I imagined the entire story about vampires, death, and potions. Something crazy just happened, like an insane sci-fi movie type of thing. I tell him, stepping away to look at him. He blinks blearily at me, weariness overcoming his curiosity. You started talking nonsense about Chloe in a blood bond ceremony. Harry yawns before slowly nodding for me to continue. Except he's swaying on his feet, which is highly suspicious. Are you okay? I ask him, stress coming back to me full force. What? Fine. Here, Harry replies, blinking a couple of times. A little tired. I curse silently, to which he doesn't even react. That day, Guy did mention he'd be going to sleep. Guess I hadn't been dreaming. I realize with dread as our unpleasant reality catches up to me. Harry! I snap my fingers in front of his face, hoping to stir him. Stay with me, okay? This is important. He nods, sagging against me to the point where I'm forced to help him sit on our bed to keep him upright. Just out of curiosity, I ask him, worry twisting my gut. How would you feel if I were to accompany you to Chloe's trial with all the vampires you've been very careful not to tell me about the last few weeks? Harry's eyes slowly fall shut. Whatever you want, darling, he sighs right before his head collapses onto a pillow. I watch his features relax into an unnatural slumber. I have no doubt I couldn't wake him from it if I tried. Will he even wake up if I don't get Damon Cromwell's stupid potion thing? Damn it. I'm going to have to do exactly what he asked me to do, aren't I? So I guess no makeup sex then, I mutter furiously as I watch my unknowing mate sigh peacefully in his sleep. Present day, at the trial, Damon whines, grasping at his jaw, sending Emma a wounded look. I rush towards them, miraculously uninterrupted, and wrap my arms around Damon's shoulders, afraid that this is all too good to be true. Damon pulls me closer, and I feel his body trembling against mine slightly. "It's okay," Damon tells me, cradling my head. "You deserve that. Heck yeah, you did. You mind-controlling jerk," Emma screeches, stomping her foot. "Now snap Harry out of it, or I'm forbidding Chloe from seeing you again." Startled, my gaze snaps to Emma's face, which looks irritated beyond words. "What happened to Harry?" I ask. Besides me, Damon noticeably winces. "I kind of had to make him let Emma come here today," he confesses, looking slightly guilty. Regret fills the air, intensifying as Emma's furious gaze locks onto him. He had used his powers on Harry, just a little, but promises he'll be back to normal soon. "Even if you fail to bring me back to life, Emma, I promise," he assures her, raising his hands in appeasement as she looks ready to punch him again. Confusion clouds my mind when an image of Damian greeting Harry at the ball flashes before my eyes, followed by the memory of him leading Harry toward the balcony. "Wait, so you knew this would happen?" I ask, my thoughts reeling from the implications. Damian Cromwell's voice interrupts, booming across the church like a warning. "I can't believe you're alive," he says, extending his arms toward Damian as if intending to hug him. His gesture makes Damian recoil in horror. "Yeah, no," Damian sneers, glaring at his grandfather. "Seeing how you're the one who's been trying to kill me this entire time." Cromwell chuckles lightly, though there's a nervous edge to it. "I don't know what Chloe's been telling you, son," he defends, "but I assure you I have nothing but your best interests at heart." Alexandra's gaze darts between her father and her son, disbelief and shock marking her features. "Damian," she murmurs softly, are you all right?" He rolls his eyes at her, though I can tell he's slightly touched by her obvious concern despite their fractured relationship. She's still family, after all. "I'm fine, Mother," he replies in a bored tone, slowly stepping out of his coffin with my help for support. "You won't be if you don't fix Harry right this second," Emma snaps. Damian's gaze travels through the crowd until it settles on Harry. "You're free to stop obeying me now," he says, making Harry blink slowly and look around as if only just becoming aware of his surroundings. Jake and Vivian exchange worried glances, which Harry promptly ignores. His focus shifts to Emma, his expression narrowing in anger. "What the hell are you doing here, Emma?" he growls, sounding dangerously close to committing homicide. She beams at him in response, shoulders sagging in relief before giving him the finger. Okay," Jake mutters, scratching his throat. "So, how is the vampire alive?" "'Cause we kind of all entertained Emma before, but none of us really thought he'd actually wake up. No offense, Emma." "Well," Damian begins, steadying himself, "I knew Ian here was going to use Nate to get rid of me, so I used my powers on him. I instructed him to only pretend to bite me while ingesting a potion that would make it look like I was dead for a while." Alexandra frowns, suspicion creeping into her expression. "Damon, what are you saying?" she asks cajolingly. "Your grandfather adores you. He looks out for our family." No, he doesn't, Damian counters sharply. He looks out for his own interests, namely, making sure none of us figures out how he's managed to earn and maintain so much power over the years. Alexandra sends her father a careful glance. Father, she begins hesitantly, suspicion grazing her features. He's the one who's orchestrated all the attempts on my life these past months. Damian steps forward, pointing at Cromwell. Exactly, and he's been pulling strings behind the scenes for longer than any of us realized. You think he cares about this family? He only cares about control. The tension in the room thickens as everyone processes the accusation. Alexandra's face hardens, her loyalty to her father visibly wavering. Emma crosses her arms, her earlier fury replaced by grim determination. Harry, finally breaking free from Damian's influence, steps forward. This isn't just about you two, he says, addressing Damian and Cromwell. If what you're saying is true, then we've all been pawns in his game. And I, for one, am done playing. His words resonate with the others, their collective resolve strengthening. Cromwell's demeanor shifts, his earlier charm dissolving into something colder. You ungrateful children, he spits, his voice dripping with disdain. I built this family's legacy from nothing. Everything I've done has been to ensure our survival, our dominance. And yet you turn on me the moment things get complicated? Damian shakes his head, his expression a mixture of pity and disgust. Survival? Dominance? That's not leadership, it's tyranny. And we're done letting you dictate our lives. The finality in his tone leaves no room for argument. Around him, the group begins to close ranks, united against the man who had once seemed untouchable. For the first time in years, hope flickers in the air, a fragile but determined flame. Whatever comes next, they'll face it together. Grandfather barely gets a word in before I agree to have a bodyguard he intended for me to fall for and form a blood bond with, all while keeping her werewolf identity hidden. Cromwell rolls his eyes, though his posture becomes increasingly defensive. Why would I do that? He replies sharply. If I wanted you dead, why go through all this trouble? Damon snorts, giving him an affronted look. That's actually a good question, Emma observes, just as Harry arrives to pull her away from the scene, which she allows with surprisingly little protest. She must have been worried about him, I realize, watching her bury her nose into his neck as he cradles her close. Well, go on then, Damon's grandfather urges, clearly thinking he's won this argument. Why would I bother planning all of this elaborate scenario, making you fall for Chloe, as you say, instead of simply killing you myself if I wanted you dead? Damon answers cautiously. The same reason you can't kill me right now, because you needed Chloe's blood to make me mortal, ensuring I'd stay dead. Damon's point of view. I barge into my sister's room without knocking, something she detests, earning me a shoe hurled at my face that I effortlessly dodge. Stupid vampire reflexes. Rose grunts, shooting me a dark glare. Love you too, darling baby sister, I tease, opening my arms toward her in an exaggerated invitation she royally ignores. I sure as hell wasn't as impertinent when I was 15, I quip, throwing myself onto Rose's bed. You were high all the time when you were 15, she retorts, applying another layer of foundation carefully before turning back to me. What do you think? She asks, her tone neutral but laced with hidden insecurities. You don't need all this makeup, I tell her sincerely. You're beautiful. Half of my face is burnt, Damon. I look like one of the villains from Superman. You mean Batman, I correct lightly. Whatever, you know who I meant, my sister replies with a pout. When Rose was younger, our mother tried to have her killed by setting the house she'd been kept in on fire. I hadn't been there at the time, and Rose only survived thanks to our grandfather, whom I'd been grateful to ever since for saving her life. That gratitude made it all the more devastating when I discovered 6 years ago that the man was out to get me. Rose and I had thought we could trust him, unlike our mother, but Ian proved to be just as cruel and cunning as Alexandra, perhaps even more so, since at least our mother never pretended to care about Rose the way he did. She cares about you, though, Rose always argued, resentment dripping from her words. I stopped debating the point with her long ago. It only made her angrier. And maybe she's right in the sense that Alexandra never attempted to kill me outright. How do I look? I ask instead, getting to my feet so she can inspect my outfit more thoroughly. Like a male model, as always, she mutters sarcastically, rolling her eyes. Got a hot date or something? To be fair, in this lifetime, she hasn't seen me in a relationship. I'm meeting the love of my life tonight, and despite knowing her already, I feel no less nervous than the first time. The stakes are high. Ian can't suspect that I've returned to life for the 4th time now. If he does, it could mean disaster for Chloe, Rose, and me. For our survival, I need to act as though nothing has changed, like I'm still indifferent and dismissive toward Chloe, just as I was during our initial encounter. She'll respond with kindness, grace, and patience, even when I throw barbs her way, because that's who she is. The love of your life? Rose interrupts my thoughts with a snort. Is that code for a hooker? No, I snap defensively. She's my future wife. You mean bride, she corrects, smirking. I mean wife, I insist, pacing around the room. I intend to be her husband, her equal, not her master. The word tastes bitter on my tongue, and anticipation races through me as I glance at my watch. But not tonight. Rose raises an eyebrow. What do you mean, not tonight? And why does it sound like there's more to this story? I pause, clenching my fists. Stress claws at me, but I can't keep it bottled up any longer. Do you know how some vampire families have special abilities? I ask abruptly. Rose nods slowly. Like those European vampires who could grow wings and fly? Yes, exactly, I say, relieved she understands. Well, we don't do that, but when we die, we don't stay dead. She frowns, clearly skeptical. Okay, Damian, pretty much every vampire can come back after dying once. That's not exactly groundbreaking. I shake my head impatiently. No, I mean, even when we die as vampires, we don't stay dead. Her expression shifts from skepticism to disbelief. I've died before, as a vampire, I clarify, holding her gaze, and each time I've come back. Rose stares at me, searching for any hint of humor or exaggeration. Finding none, she whispers, Wait. It's true, I continue, letting the weight of my words sink in. The last time I died, I fell in love with a girl. At first, it was pretend. She was posing as my bride. But then it became real. I started drinking from her, and though I never said it aloud, I think she loved me too. She had secrets, though. Secrets she wouldn't or couldn't share. Maybe she would have eventually if we'd been given more time. My voice cracks slightly, and I take a deep breath. One day, outside a diner, everything changed. A man approached us, angry, claiming she'd betrayed him by running away. He called her his mate. My hands ball into fists as the memory floods back, the scumbag's face twisted in rage, his entitlement oozing off him. Shifters have mates, Rose interjects suddenly, piecing it together faster than I expected. She's always been clever. Exactly, I confirm. Your girl's a shifter. Her eyes light up with interest. That's cool. I didn't realize that's what she was, or what it meant. I nod grimly. Neither did I until I learned the hard way. The guy attacked without warning. He moved fast, faster than I anticipated. Before I could react, he lunged at her. All I could do was step in front of her, to shield her, to protect her. And then, my voice trails off, pain lancing through me as the image replays in my mind. He killed me. Rose gasps, her hand flying to her mouth. But you came back. Not soon enough, I mutter bitterly. By the time I returned, she was gone, vanished. I searched everywhere, but I couldn't find her. It wasn't until years later that I discovered she'd been hiding, running from him, running from everything, including me. And now, Rose prompts softly. And now, I echo, determination hardening my tone. I'm going to make sure history doesn't repeat itself. This time, I'll earn her trust. I'll prove to her that I'm worthy of it. But first, I need her to fall in love with me again. Tonight isn't about declarations or promises. It's about laying the foundation, building something real between us, brick by brick. Rose studies me silently for a moment before speaking. You really care about her, don't you? I meet her gaze unflinchingly, more than anything. Her lips curve into a small smile. Then don't screw it up. I chuckle dryly. Thanks for the vote of confidence. As the evening approaches, I steel myself for what lies ahead. Acting indifferent will be one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it's necessary. Ian can't suspect a thing, not yet. For Chloe's sake and mine, I'll play the part of the disinterested suitor perfectly. But beneath the surface, I'll be watching, waiting, hoping. Hoping that this time things will turn out differently. Tonight, I remind myself, isn't about grand gestures or heartfelt confessions. It's about taking the first step toward rewriting our story, one where we both get a happy ending. Chloe started choking, and I shouted at him to stop. You'd think he'd listen since people usually do what I say, right? Yeah, my compulsion powers are pretty intense. I know, it's impressive. But that night, they failed me completely. I closed my eyes, unable to watch as Chloe's life drained from her gaze, her body crumpling to the ground. He killed her right in front of me. When I tried to intervene, he shoved me into the path of a passing car. Ironically, though he doesn't realize it, that act saved my life. The memory of dying floods back, the searing pain coursing through every inch of my body, and then waking up 2 years earlier on the day I became a vampire. Rose stares at me, mouth agape, for a few seconds before shaking her head in disbelief. Are you serious? She asks finally, still processing. I wish I wasn't, I mutter, pacing the room again as fragments of those early days come rushing back. The confusion, the fear, the suspicion. Why was I sent back in time? What was I supposed to do? And how had no one figured out what I could do? After some digging, I discovered this ability wasn't unique. It was a gift shared by our entire bloodline. It explained why our grandfather accumulated so much power over the decades. If anyone betrayed or killed him, he'd simply wake up in the past and rearrange events to defeat his enemies all over again. Does Mom know about this? Rose asks, surprisingly calm given the bombshell I just dropped. I doubt it, I reply. Ian likes to keep this advantage to himself, make sure no one else knows so he can stay ahead. So that's why he wants you dead? Rose presses. No, I correct her. If he knew I knew about this, I wouldn't be standing here. He wouldn't take any chances. Instead, he's biding his time, making it look like an accident, or better yet, framing someone else entirely. Chloe, specifically. The second time around, when I met Chloe again, I almost told her everything about her wolf nature, her mate, the truth behind my strange déjà vu, but something stopped me. My grandfather seemed determined to keep these secrets buried, and tipping him off would have only made things worse. Whatever plan he had, I needed to figure it out first. Then it clicked. That moment Chloe's mate attacked her, my powers vanished. Soon after, I pieced together the horrifying truth. Werewolf blood rendered vampires mortal once more. I explained this revelation to Rose, who snaps her fingers, a nervous habit she has whenever she's deep in thought. So Grandpa wanted you to drink from the shifter unknowingly because it would make me mortal again, I finished for her, snapping my own fingers back at her. And if I were mortal, I couldn't come back to life after being killed, meaning I'd lose the chance to uncover the family secret. Rose nods slowly, putting the pieces together. Which means he gets rid of you while pinning it on Chloe. 2 birds with 1 stone. But why does he want me gone so badly? Rose frowns, clearly struggling to reconcile this ruthless version of our grandfather with the man we thought we knew. He cares about power, Rose, I snap, ignoring the pang of betrayal twisting inside me. He's been alive for centuries. Feelings don't exist for him anymore. Not really. All he sees is strategy, control, dominance. To him, we're pawns in his endless game. And now that I've figured out his playbook, my voice trails off, but the implication hangs heavy between us. Later, alone in my room, I replay the timeline in my mind. Every decision, every interaction feels loaded with significance now. Knowing what I know changes everything, but it also gives me an edge, an opportunity to rewrite the script before he even realizes I'm onto him. Chloe crosses my thoughts next. She's strong, resilient, fiercely loyal to her pack. Yet there's vulnerability beneath her tough exterior, a fragility she hides well. I can see it, though. Maybe because I understand what it's like to carry guilt and blame yourself for things beyond your control. Unlike my grandfather, I won't manipulate her. Not again. This time, I'll protect her, even if it costs me everything. But protecting her means navigating dangerous waters. My pack isn't exactly fond of outsiders, especially not werewolves. They'll question my motives, accuse me of betrayal. And Damian, he complicates things further. His loyalty lies with both sides, torn between duty and personal feelings, just like me. Still, I remind myself, none of this matters compared to stopping Ian. If I play my cards right, I can turn his schemes against him, use his arrogance, his belief in his invincibility to bring him down. But it won't be easy. One wrong move, and I risk losing everyone I care about, including myself. As night falls, I step outside, letting the cool air steady my racing thoughts. Emma finds me there, concern etched across her face. "You okay?" she asks softly. "No," I admit, surprising even myself with the honesty. "But I will be." She smiles faintly, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "We're in this together, remember?" Her words bolster me, grounding me in the present. For too long, I've let fear dictate my actions, allowed guilt to weigh me down. Not anymore. From here on out, every choice I make will serve a purpose, protecting those I love and dismantling the empire built on lies and manipulation. Tomorrow begins the fight of my life. Good at faking them, and he hates that everyone is pressuring him into making me heir, especially since my powers are proving to be as strong as his. He can't stand it. "That's why he wants to kill you." Rose rolls her eyes. "That's stupid, Damian. You don't even want his title." Men like him don't understand. He thinks I'll stab him in the back eventually because that's exactly what he'd do. So what's the plan here exactly? Let everything play out the way he planned, just like I have before. I know how he gets me killed and when. But this time, I'll ensure I'm not dead, and I'll unmask him publicly. Okay, Rose nods bravely. How can I help? I pull her into a hug. Forget this entire conversation. Forget I was here. Go to sleep. I feel her sag against me, then step back. Driving home, a day's worth of worry clenches my every nerve. I was acting brave earlier with Rose, but I have no idea if what I'm planning is even going to work. I don't know what happened after my death from Nate's bite at the ball. All I know is that I can't stay trapped in this loop forever. And I can't risk just letting myself be killed without ensuring Chloe's safety from both Nate and my grandfather. She's tied to this now. If anything, I have to make sure she is safe. Awaiting in my room, I resign myself to change into my pajamas instead of keeping a more fitting outfit, as I know my grandfather doesn't expect any visitors tonight. There's someone I'd like you to meet, he tells me with a kind, patient smile I now abhor seeing on his face. It used to bring me so much comfort, but now, knowing the truth, it only hurts all the more. The truth is that this man I care for and looked up to never held any love for me. All right, I reply, walking unhurriedly toward the living space I know she's in. What I'd like nothing more than to do is run, break the door open, sweep Chloe up in my arms, and never let her go. Instead, I push the door open, try to ignore how her wide green eyes bring as much joy as they do pain at the idea of losing her again, and declare in a bored tone, hoping she doesn't see right through me, "Good evening, whatever your name is. Shall we?" Present day at the trial. Cromwell visibly pales, clenching his jaw. Around us, a series of questions erupt in the church, not just among the werewolf crowd. The vampires look curious and apprehensive too, sending each other questioning glances that remain unanswered as Cromwell's silence stretches. "It's over," Damian says, pulling me behind him as he backs his grandfather into a corner. "I'm not sure I understand fully yet," Cromwell says, staring Damian down. "Your secret's out. How many times?" "This is my fourth," Damian replies, making me frown in confusion. "And you lost," Cromwell sighs before claiming. Nobody moves. Similarly to the night Damian had used his powers on the crowd in Marco Rossi's club, the entire population inside the church freezes into still silence. "What are you going to do?" Damian taunts, a smirk grazing his lips. "Kill everyone here?" "Oh no," Cromwell replies, though frowning upon Damian's audacity. The tension in the room thickens, the air heavy with unspoken threats and unresolved grudges. Damian steps closer to his grandfather, his voice low but sharp enough to cut through the frozen silence. "You've played your games for long enough, old man. It stops now." Cromwell narrows his eyes, his calm demeanor slipping slightly. "You think revealing this changes anything? You're still just a boy playing at being a king." Damian's expression hardens, his hands curling into fists. "I stopped being a boy the moment you decided I was expendable." The two men lock gaze, neither willing to back down. The weight of their shared history presses down on the room, invisible but suffocating. For a brief moment, I wonder if Damian truly has thought this through, if he's considered the consequences of exposing Cromwell here and now. But there's no turning back now. Finally, Cromwell exhales deeply, breaking eye contact. "Very well," he murmurs, his voice quieter but laced with venom. "Let's see how far you can take this charade." Damian doesn't respond. Instead, he turns to face the crowd, his presence commanding their attention even in the unnatural stillness. When he speaks, his voice rings out clear and unraveling. For years, this family and this world has been ruled by lies. My grandfather sought to manipulate us all, pitting us against each other for his own gain. But no longer. Today, we end his reign. A murmur ripples through the crowd, though muted and cautious. Even under Damian's influence, fear of Cromwell runs deep. Cromwell watches silently, his expression unreadable. For a man who has spent decades controlling those around him, he seems almost resigned. Perhaps he always knew this day would come. As Damian continues to speak, outlining the evidence against Cromwell and calling for a formal vote to strip him of his power, I find myself torn between admiration and dread. Admiration for Damian's courage and dread for what might follow. Cromwell may be cornered, but he's far from defeated. When the vote is cast, the decision is unanimous. Cromwell stands motionless as the reality sinks in. He has lost. Not just his position, but the respect and loyalty of those he once commanded. But as the crowd begins to disperse, I catch Cromwell's gaze one last time. There's something in his eyes, a flicker of defiance, or perhaps promise. It sends a chill down my spine, a reminder that while one battle may be won, the war is far from over. And somewhere in the shadows, I can't shake the feeling that Nate is watching, waiting for his next move. Realizing his command had taken hold, Cromwell sneered. "I'm just going to kill you once I make sure you've drunk enough of Chloe's blood to stay dead this time, erase everyone's mind, and then pick right where we left off." Ambitious, Damon replied, moving us backward. "We both know I can do it. Your powers are growing impressively quickly, but you can't outmatch me yet, son. Not when you're weak and haven't had any blood for days. At least you can't stop me." "Oh, wasn't planning on it," Damon quipped. Chloe frowned in confusion as Cromwell's gaze snapped toward her. "Huh? Me?" she exclaimed, before realizing that she could speak and move, something that shouldn't be possible after Cromwell used his powers on all of us. "You know what happens to a vampire's bride once the blood ceremony is done, Chloe?" Damon asked, watching his grandfather grit his teeth in obvious displeasure. "Go ahead, tell me. I know you're dying to," she replied, trailing Cromwell's movements with her eyes to anticipate a potential attack. "The bride becomes immune to every vampire's compulsion powers, but her bond changes," Damon explained, patting Chloe on the shoulder. "And since I've ensured we'd both be bonded before our ceremony, in case it was interrupted too soon," he winked as Cromwell's face contorted into a snarl. "That means you're the only human in the entire world who's immune to my grandfather's powers," Damon grinned. "And you're a werewolf with superpowered strength who knows how to fight." "Now, isn't that convenient?" Grandpa Cromwell snarled in rage and jumped back, waving a hand toward a group of his vampire staff, currently frozen in time. "You three," he shouted, snapping them back into awareness. "Get rid of her." Chloe took a step toward the group of vampires, dodging a first blow before kicking her attacker in the stomach. "Chloe, we can't let my grandfather escape," Damon said, pointing toward Cromwell's retreating figure. "We?" Chloe grunted, twisting a second vampire's hand and spinning him to the ground. "You know, now's probably a good time as any to tell me that I'm useless in a physical fight," Damon confessed as one of his grandfather's minions tried landing a punch to his face. She stopped him by throwing herself onto his back. "I know, Damon," she sighed, tackling another assailant to the ground. "Well, get on with it then. He's getting away," Damian urged, pointing toward a back door. But don't kill him. We need him alive. If he dies, he'll come back from the dead and ruin everything." "What?" Chloe exclaimed, running after Cromwell through a crowd of frozen people. "Yeah, that's the big family secret. When we die, we wake up on the day we first became vampires," Damon shouted as Chloe jumped to grab Cromwell's legs, making him fall to the ground. With a grunt, he pulled a knife from under him and aimed to plunge it into his neck, but Chloe held his wrist, trying to pull him off. "And this has happened to you?" she asked, trying to stay focused on the knife. "You've died before?" "Yes, 4 times. We've actually met before, you and I," Cromwell interrupted, addressing the row of frozen vampires beside them. "Stop!" I managed to steal the knife out of his hand just in time to parry a blow coming from my right. I throw my elbow back into Ian's stomach, making him groan and fall to his knees before I begin fighting off a new small crowd of vampires. Damian catches my gaze briefly, and I warn him silently. I'm not going to be able to fight off an entire church full of people. He nods, making his way towards us as quickly as he can. A vampire grabs me by the shoulders, immobilizing me long enough for another to punch my nose, making me grunt. Meanwhile, Damian has managed to reach his grandfather and is now doing his best to pin him to the ground, which is obviously a struggle in his weakened state. "Use your powers on him," I yell, kicking an incoming vampire in the jaw. "He's stronger than me," Damian replies, wincing as Cromwell headbutts him in the nose. "I should have killed you on the day you were born," Cromwell sneers, before Damian slams his head onto the ground. "You can do it, Damian," I urge. I manage to get rid of the last vampire on the prowl and plunge to Damian's aid, wrapping one arm around Cromwell's shoulders to immobilize him and the other against his mouth to prevent him from speaking. He struggles, but I am a werewolf and by nature much stronger than him. "Make him wake everybody up," I tell Damian, sending him an encouraging look. "Or start with the werewolves." Damian presses his lips together, looking his grandfather in the eye. "You heard her. Wake them up." Cromwell sneers at him, trying to move away, but I hold him in place. "It's not working," Damian says, his nose starting to bleed. "Try again. Wake them up." Right as Damian insists, Cromwell bites into my hand, making me gasp. At this moment, one of the vampires I'd knocked out throws himself at me, making me let go of Cromwell. The knife that Damian's grandfather had held before is now in his hand, descending right upon me as the vampire aims for my heart. "Wake everybody up now," Damian barks, panic lacing his words. "Wake up, all of you," Cromwell says, freezing my attacker mid-movement. The knife only grazes my skin as he blinks away. I let out a sigh of relief, catching Damian's terrified gaze. His shoulders sag slowly in relief as he realizes the entire room is coming back to their senses, and most importantly, my life is no longer in danger. "Go to sleep," he tells Cromwell, who instantly collapses onto the ground. "What just happened?" I hear Vivian say from somewhere at the back. I don't pay any attention to the many questions echoing around the room, throwing myself into Damian's arms. Pure relief courses through my veins as I help him back to his feet. He clenches his head in pain, the use of his powers having taken a heavy toll on him. Despite it, he smiles softly at me and announces to everyone in the room, pointing toward his grandfather. Case in point, he tried to kill me. Then he lets out a quick, barely audible sigh and removes his eyes from Ian to settle them onto my face. Court dismissed. 2 weeks after the trial, I take a deep breath and brace myself. The events of that night still weigh heavily on my mind, but I know I need to keep moving forward. Damian's strength and determination during the chaos gave me hope, even when everything seemed lost. Now, as I stand here in the quiet aftermath, I feel a renewed sense of purpose. The bond between us has grown stronger, forged in the fires of shared adversity. The pack is watching me closely, waiting to see what I'll do next. They've underestimated me before, but I'm determined to prove myself, to show them that I'm capable of leading with both my heart and my head. Emma gives me a small, supportive smile from across the room, and I feel a surge of gratitude for her unwavering friendship. Harry, too, watches me with quiet pride, his trust in me unshaken despite everything we've been through. But there's still so much uncertainty ahead. My bond with Nate continues to haunt me, a constant reminder of the emotional turmoil I've endured. But there's still so much uncertainty ahead. Every time I think about him, guilt washes over me, threatening to pull me under. Yet I remind myself that I have a choice, to let the past define me or to rise above it. Damian's voice echoes in my mind. You can do it. I glance around the room, taking in the faces of those who depend on me. Their safety is my responsibility, and I won't let them down. Not again. With a steadying breath, I step forward, ready to face whatever comes next. Myself to leave our house where the party is currently in full swing. Beside me, Damian stands, looking around the room in awe, a hand placed firmly against my back, the other pulling on his sister's arm to prevent her from grabbing a drink from the refreshment table. "Oh, no, you don't," he snaps, earning himself an annoyed glance. "You're not even 16. You don't get to drink until another 2 years. You mean 5? I ask, momentarily distracted from the upcoming difficult conversation I'm about to have. We grew up in Europe, 18 will do. Not in this country it won't, Damian replies, rolling his eyes. Okay then, it won't, he says suspiciously innocently before adding, for Rose's sake, at least be more discreet about it. Rose, for crying out loud, Damian mutters, putting his hand over her mouth to shut her up. Jesus, sis, not in front of the in-laws. They still hate me for using my powers on one of them, remember? I snort. They don't hate you, I tease, smiling at Harry from across the room. He looks like he's about to head over to us, but Emma pulls him back, sending Damian a murderous glare. Well, they don't all hate you, I correct with a small laugh. Oh, thanks for your support, Damian grits out between his teeth. I feel so much better. I roll my eyes at him. I'll speak to Emma when I get back, all right? I tell him, squeezing his arm. She'll come around, I promise. Damian frowns, watching his sister walk off to give Emma a warm hug. Traitor, he mutters under his breath before snapping his eyes back to me. Shall we? I nod. I tried to tell Damian that I wanted to do this alone, but he categorically refused, and I didn't blame him. In the days following Ian Cromwell's arrest, he told me all about the previous lifetimes we shared, including the one in which Nate had killed me in front of him, the memory of which had left a bitter mark upon Damian. We walked side by side into the woods, silence settling between us, though not an uncomfortable one. I stop once we reach a familiar tree trunk, which had been cut years ago when I was still a little girl. This used to be my favorite place growing up, one I would escape to when the pressures of the pack became too much, so pretty much every day. He should be here soon, I tell Damian, and just as I'd expected, we don't wait more than a couple of minutes before Nate emerges from the branches against the backdrop of the night. What is he doing here? Nate snarls upon seeing Damian. This is between you and me, I reply, stepping in front of Damian just in case Nate had it in mind to attack. Leave him out of it. You leave him out of it, Nate, I warn. Calm down. He sends me a slightly startled look, but purses his lips and says nothing else, waiting for me to speak. I have something to ask you, I tell him, making him scoff. Then why would I do anything for you? He replies as Damian tenses behind me. I sent him a warning glance and turn back to Nate. It's a simple request. You don't have to grant it, I tell him patiently, though I'd prefer it if you did. But keep in mind that I intend to live my life. Despite everything, I'm determined to move forward. My bond with Damian gives me strength, even as my loyalty to the pack remains unshaken. Nate watches me closely, his expression unreadable. For a moment, I think he might refuse outright, but then he exhales sharply and crosses his arms. "Fine," he says finally. "What is it?" His tone is clipped, but there's a flicker of curiosity in his eyes. I take a deep breath, steadying myself. "I want you to stay away from me," I say firmly. "From all of us. No more games, no more manipulation. Just leave us alone." Nate's jaw tightens, and for a second, I think he might lash out, but instead, he lets out a low, humorless laugh. "That's rich," he mutters. "After everything, you really think it's that simple?" "It can be," I reply, meeting his gaze without flinching. "You've taken enough from me, from all of us. It's time for you to let go." Damian shifts behind me, his presence grounding me. Nate studies me for a long moment, his dark eyes searching mine, as if trying to gauge how serious I am. Finally, he shakes his head. "You always were stubborn," he says, almost fondly, though there's an edge of bitterness in his voice. "Fine, if that's what you want, so be it. But don't expect me to disappear entirely. Some things are beyond even my control." His words send a shiver down my spine, but I don't let it show. "Just stay out of our way," I repeat, my voice steady. "And maybe, just maybe, we can both find some peace." With that, I turn on my heel, motioning for Damian to follow me. As we walk back toward the house, the weight of the conversation settles heavily on my shoulders. Damian doesn't say anything, but his hand finds mine, offering silent support. When we step back inside, the noise and laughter of the party wash over us, a stark contrast to the tension we've just left behind. Emma waves me over, her earlier hostility replaced with concern. "Everything okay?" she asks softly. I nod, forcing a smile. "Yeah, everything's going to be fine." As the night wears on, I find myself leaning into the warmth of my friends and family. Despite the challenges ahead, I feel a renewed sense of purpose. I've made my choice, and I'm ready to face whatever comes next, with or without Nate. Darker as he processes my words. "Then at least we'll have one less burden to worry about," I finish. Damon nods, understanding the weight of what I'm saying. His grip on my hand tightens slightly, not out of fear, but solidarity. He's been by my side through so much, and for once, I feel like I'm finally making a choice that aligns with my own well-being, rather than being pulled in every direction by guilt and obligation. The walk back feels quieter than usual, the air thick with unspoken tension. My mind races despite my outward calm. What will Nate do? Will he honor my request, or will his stubbornness, and maybe even his lingering feelings, lead him to cling to the bond? The thought of him spiraling further into chaos terrifies me, but not because I care for him anymore. It's because I know how destructive he can be when he loses control. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that I can't save someone who refuses to save themselves. When we reach the house, Damon gently pulls me inside and closes the door behind us. The warmth of the room wraps around me like a comforting embrace, yet my nerves remain frayed. I sink onto the couch, resting my elbows on my knees and burying my face in my hands. Damon sits beside me, his presence steady and reassuring. "You did the right thing," he says softly after a moment. His voice is firm but kind, cutting through the storm brewing inside me. You can't keep living your life tied to someone who only drags you down. I nod, though the action feels mechanical. Deep down, I know he's right. Every fiber of my being knows it. But breaking free isn't just about walking away. It's about untangling years of manipulation, guilt, and misplaced loyalty. It's about convincing myself that I deserve better, even when Nate has spent so long convincing me otherwise. I just hope he doesn't make this harder than it needs to be, I mutter, lifting my head to meet Damon's gaze. His blue eyes are filled with concern, but also determination. He believes in me, even when I struggle to believe in myself. He might, Damon admits, but no matter what happens, you're not alone in this. You've got me, Harry, Emma, the entire pack. They all support you. This isn't just about cutting ties with Nate. It's about reclaiming your life. His words hit their mark, stirring something deep within me. For so long, I've carried the weight of everything on my shoulders, convinced that it was my responsibility to fix things, to bear the consequences of other people's actions. But Damon's reminder that I don't have to face this alone is like a lifeline pulling me back from the brink. We sit in silence for a while, letting the gravity of the day settle over us. Eventually, I lean into Damon, finding comfort in his warmth and strength. He wraps an arm around me without hesitation, holding me close as if to shield me from the uncertainty ahead. In that moment, I allow myself to breathe, to let go of some of the tension that's been coiled tightly inside me. Later that evening, as I lie in bed staring at the ceiling, my thoughts drift back to Nate. Not out of longing or regret, but out of curiosity. Will he listen? Will he fight back? Or will he simply ignore my plea altogether? Whatever his decision, I remind myself that it's out of my hands now. I've done what I needed to do. I've drawn my line in the sand, and nothing, not Nate's anger, not his desperation, not even his pain, will drag me back across it. The next morning, I wake up feeling lighter, though not entirely free. The bond still hums faintly beneath my skin, a constant reminder of the connection I wish I could sever completely. Still, I refuse to let it dictate my actions or cloud my judgment. Today, I decide, is a new beginning, a chance to focus on myself, on my pack, and on building a future where I'm no longer shackled to the past. As I step outside, the crisp morning air fills my lungs, grounding me. Damon joins me shortly, offering a small smile as he approaches. Together, we walk toward the heart of the pack's territory, ready to face whatever comes next. Whatever Nate chooses, I know one thing for certain: I won't let him define me anymore. Grateful for his understanding, though I'm not sure how much I can share. It was Iris, I say softly, glancing back toward the garden before meeting his gaze. She's checking in, I think. Damon raises an eyebrow, but doesn't press further, instead pulling me closer as if to shield me from whatever unease her presence might have stirred. His arms are warm and steady, a comfort I desperately need right now. I try to focus on the moment, on the way his heartbeat syncs with mine, but my mind keeps drifting back to Iris's words. A loophole? Could it really exist? And what did she mean about Vivian? My thoughts swirl like storm clouds, dark and heavy, but I push them aside for now. Damon deserves my full attention, not the fractured pieces of me that are constantly worrying about things beyond my control. "Stay with me," he murmurs against my hair, as if sensing the turmoil beneath my calm exterior. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together." His voice is so sure, so unwavering, that for a moment I almost believe him. Almost. But the weight of everything, the bond with Nate, the visions of my death, the looming uncertainty of Vivian's role in all this, is too much to ignore completely. Later that evening, after Damon excuses himself to take care of some pack business, I find myself pacing the length of the living room. The house feels quieter than usual, though I know it's bustling with activity elsewhere. Alpha Harry's voice drifts in from another room, low and commanding, while Emma laughs softly at something someone has said. It's a comforting hum of life, yet I feel isolated within it, caught between worlds I don't fully belong to. Vivian catches me mid-pace, her fiery red hair catching the light as she steps into the room. She tilts her head, studying me with those sharp green eyes that miss nothing. "You look like you're about to crawl out of your skin," she says bluntly. "What's going on?" For a second, I consider brushing her off, giving her some vague response that would let me keep circling these thoughts alone. But then I remember Iris's warning about Vivian making a wish, about drastic measures, and decide honesty might be the better path here. "Do you trust me?" I ask abruptly, surprising even myself. Her expression shifts slightly, curiosity replacing her initial amusement. "Of course I do. Why?" "I need you to promise me something," I continue, stepping closer. "No matter what happens, no matter how badly you want something, don't make any wishes, not until I can explain more." Vivian blinks, clearly taken aback. "Wishes? Like birthday candles and shooting stars kind of thing?" "No," I say firmly, "like real wishes, ones that could change everything." She stares at me for a long moment, searching my face for answers I'm not ready to give. Finally, she nods slowly. "Okay, I won't make any wishes, but you owe me an explanation soon, Chloe. You're scaring me." Her words hit harder than I expect, guilt twisting in my chest. Scaring her isn't what I wanted, not when she's already been through so much. Before I can respond, she reaches out and squeezes my hand briefly before walking away, leaving me alone once again. The rest of the night passes in a blur. I alternate between watching Vivian closely, she seems fine, chatting animatedly with Emma, and trying to shake off the ominous feeling Iris left behind. Every time I close my eyes, I see flashes of the future I've glimpsed. Blood, fire, loss. They haunt me, relentless reminders of what's at stake if I fail. By morning, exhaustion weighs heavily on me, but there's no time to rest. As I sit outside sipping coffee, Nate appears without warning, his presence both familiar and unsettling. He doesn't speak immediately, just watches me with those piercing blue eyes that always seem to see straight through me. "You've been avoiding me," he says finally, his tone neutral but laced with accusation. "I haven't," I lie, knowing full well it's true. Distance has been the only way to protect myself and everyone else from the chaos our bond creates. Nate sighs, running a hand through his dark hair. "You can't run forever, Chloe. We're connected whether you like it or not." "I know," I snap, regretting the sharpness in my voice almost instantly. "But I'm trying to fix things for all of us." His expression softens slightly, and for a brief moment, I see the vulnerability beneath his usual confidence. "Just don't shut me out completely, okay? I care about you, more than you realize." Before I can respond, he turns and walks away, leaving me staring after him with conflicted emotions swirling inside me. How am I supposed to balance duty and love when every choice feels like betrayal? As the day wears on, I manage to corner Iris again during a rare quiet moment. "What exactly happens if Vivian makes a wish?" I demand, cutting straight to the point. Iris hesitates, her usually composed demeanor faltering slightly. "Let's just say the consequences won't be contained to her alone. Her desires will ripple outward, affecting everyone around her, including you." Great, just what we needed, another variable in an already complicated equation. Determined to prevent disaster, I spend the next few hours subtly steering Vivian away from situations where she might inadvertently wish for something. It's exhausting work, but I can't afford to let my guard down. That night, as I lie awake beside Damon, I replay Iris's cryptic hints over and over in my mind. Loophole, drastic measures, ripples. Each word feels like a piece of a puzzle I'm desperate to solve, but every time I think I'm close, the picture shifts, leaving me more confused than before. "Chloe," Damon whispers sleepily, pulling me closer. "Stop thinking so hard. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out. His faith in me is both a blessing and a burden. I nod silently, letting his warmth envelop me as I drift off, hoping against hope that tomorrow brings clarity and maybe, just maybe, a chance to rewrite the ending I've seen far too many times. I am so grateful to have him in my life that I don't know how to fully express it. I love you, I tell him, the words spilling out in a rush. His smile is immediate, and though I've seen it countless times before, hearing his response makes it feel new somehow. The weight that has been crushing my soul for so long suddenly lifts, leaving me dizzy and disoriented. Confusion clouds my mind until clarity strikes. Nate must have just rejected our bond. Without hesitation, I throw myself into Damon's arms. "I'm free," I whisper, bracing myself for the wave of pain and emptiness that should follow such a severance. But instead of despair, Damon's lips find mine, and to my astonishment, the agony never arrives. It's as if the universe itself shifted, sparing me from what I feared most. In this moment, relief washes over me like a tidal wave. My heart feels lighter than it has in years, unburdened by the tangled web of emotions and obligations that once defined my existence. I cling to Damon, drawing strength from his presence, his unwavering support grounding me when everything else feels uncertain. For the first time, I allow myself to believe that maybe, just maybe, things will be all right after all. As the reality of what transpired settles in, gratitude fills every corner of my being. Gratitude for Damon standing by me through everything. Gratitude for finding the courage to let go of something that no longer served me. And gratitude for discovering who I truly am beneath all the chaos. This newfound freedom feels intoxicating, empowering even, as though I've stepped out of a shadowy cocoon into the light. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If these moments resonated with you, consider showing your support by liking, subscribing, or continuing onward to see where the story goes next. Every bit of encouragement means more than words can convey.